What is going on, everybody? It is the Awesemo NBA Strategy Show. We're sponsored by Prize Picks today. As you come in, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel because we have Heat, Celtics to talk about. And there's always little extra wrinkles added onto this series because we really haven't seen these teams healthy very much over the course of the series. So for today, here's the new wrinkle. We have Tyler Hero has been ruled out for the Heat. We have Marcus Smart listed as questionable for the Celtics. I assume that he is ultimately going to end up playing because, well, that ankle injury looked horrific when it first happened last game. He ended up coming back like 6 minutes later and looked okay, actually, the rest of the game, which I was pretty surprised by. So in terms of that, these teams are definitely banged up, but it's at least gives us something different to talk about. So it's not the exact same one-game slate every time. Adam, how are you feeling about tonight's game and the baseball slate?
Much more interested right now in the baseball slate, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it's weird. It's kind of tough. Normally, when you get 4 games into a series, or you're going into game 4, you have a really good idea of how things are going to look, and that's something that we've talked about before. Where it's not that you're giving into recency bias, but you do want to at least pay some attention to are they taking usage away from, for example, Jason Tatum? Are they getting extra usage for Marcus Smart or whatever? But we keep seeing different lineups, so it's really difficult to get any sort of read there. I think that there's a lot more guessing going on at this point than you normally get this far into a series.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too is when you take, and by the way, Tyler Hero has been terrible in the entire playoffs, but this series in particular. I was looking up some of his numbers earlier. Adam, unless you saw my tweet earlier, do you know, or could you rough guess what Tyler Hero is shooting from three in this series?
Like 6.5%.
Yeah,
I did see your tweet earlier.
6.7% for the series, and then he's somewhere in the neighborhood of 20% from the playoffs. So he is not making any shots. We know that Tyler Hero doesn't add a whole lot of value on defense. So in general, I'm not going to look at this and just be like, oh, Tyler Hero sucks, he's worthless. But ultimately, as far as the spread goes or anything like that, I don't think Tyler Hero has a massive impact on the game. When you consider that the Heat, number one, they're getting Kyle Lowry back and at full health now. He played last game and looked, pretty good. But then the other thing also is guys like Max Strus, Gabe Vincent, Oladipo coming off the bench. I don't think those guys are that much different than Tyler Hero from a value standpoint. So I don't think this is a thing where we have to totally overhaul how we view this game with the absence of Tyler Hero, but it is going to change some of the value options we have. So that's where I really want to start by talking about here is with Tyler Hero officially out for today, are there any value pieces that you see stepping up for the Heat that make more sense?
So to start, I think Hero's a bigger loss than you do. But I mean, it doesn't change the point that I don't think I'm not looking at this game saying oh, it's clearly a blowout now or anything, but yeah. I think he's pretty hard for Miami to replace. They don't have 3-point shooting, and that's what he gives you. Even though he hasn't shot well in this series or the postseason, he's like a 39% 3-point shooter over the last 3 years. So taking him out is a pretty big deal. But he is a liability defensively, so there's that. But as far as guys stepping up, I mean, Lofty and I spent a lot of time on Oladipo this morning, kind of saying, if everybody's in, I'm not positive Oladipo plays a single minute after not playing at all in the first half last game. But that, he was kind of interesting in tournaments at low ownership just because all of Miami's banged up. And if one of those guys goes out, then there are minutes available for Oladipo. Now we know that Hero's out. So at the very least, I think you're getting some minutes off the bench for a $4,400 Oladipo. Production-wise, your guess is as good as mine. He's not a good fit alongside Jimmy Butler. Neither guy can shoot threes. He, is best with the ball in his hands, and that's just not going to be the case. So what you're going to get from him from a fantasy standpoint kind of remains to be seen. But if you're going to get minutes from him at 4,400, there's just not a lot of value on this slate, and it does make him look pretty good. PJ Tucker, I think, looks like a very good value piece as well, but that would have been with or without Hero. And then you probably get a little bit more run from a $4,600 Gabe Vincent as well.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't actually think Tyler Hero is bad or anything. The bigger point is the Celtics were 6.5-point favorites. Hero got rolled out and they moved to 7-point favorites, which is about reasonable to me. Yeah. Hero's not somebody I would expect to be worth, a massive amount of points to the spread. So moving a little tiny bit in favor of the Celtics more or less makes sense to me. And then, what about somebody like Gabe Vincent, who, because you talked about the perimeter shooting generally being a weakness for the Heat, and something they really need when the two best players on this team are Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Now, I know that there was a point in time as recent as 3 days ago where people would have said Bam Adebayo was like the 8th best player on this team, but he's had one good game in a row now. So maybe people have come back around on Bam Adebayo. But the bigger point here, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, neither of them are 3-point shooters. We're taking Tyler Hero out, who, like you said, is one of the team's only good 3-point shooters. But Gabe Vincent has had success in the series is also a pretty good 3-point shooter. He shot 37% from the season. Do you think there's a chance that Gabe Vincent just winds up playing more minutes than Oladipo and is the better fantasy option?
Yeah, I don't think that would be surprising. I mean, he's been ahead of Oladipo in the rotation. He can shoot threes, and that's been the thing. You can agree or disagree on if Oladipo fits. You can argue that, he should be playing more for whatever reasons if you want to, but we've seen time and time again that he's not really a part of this rotation when Jimmy Butler is active. That goes for the regular season. It's gone for the postseason. The reports are that it's because of spacing. Like if you put Butler, Oladipo, and Bam on the floor at the same time, you have no spacing. Butler's like a 24% 3-point shooter over the last 3 years. Bam doesn't shoot threes. Oladipo's like 31% or something like that. So it just makes it difficult. Whereas you put somebody like, Vincent out there that does shoot better, and it's just a better fit alongside those guys, since Jimmy Butler's going to have the ball in his hands one way or the other. Kyle Lowry's going to have the ball in his hands one way or the other. It makes sense. And you've seen Vincent, ahead of Oladipo in the rotation. For example, when Lowry's out, Vincent's the one that gets those starts. So I do think he plays more minutes than Oladipo does. He's also only $200 more expensive.
Yeah, and pulling up the ownership projections right now, I think that this is probably a little light on Victor Oladipo, just because I know how much the public ends up liking Victor Oladipo at any chance there is to roster him. He's projected for 21% ownership on DraftKings right now. On FanDuel, Oladipo is projected for 20% ownership. So if that ownership number comes up, if he was going to end up being really popular, I'd want to be underweight to the field on Jimmy Butler. But at around 20% on FanDuel and DraftKings, even if I do have some ownership concerns, the upside makes it more than worth getting to him at 20%. Do you think that's a reasonable way to look at him?
Yeah, and I'm with you as far as being a little bit nervous about the ownership. I mentioned it this morning, like when we had him at 7%, assuming everybody was going to be in. People like playing Oladipo. I mean, I think it was, I don't remember which series it was, but there was I think it was even on the 2-game slates. The first game that Lowry came back and Oladipo still like 30% owned and like almost called a DNP because people just like love playing the guy. So I am always a little bit skeptical of him being low owned. And if he's going to be 20%, we have Vincent at 18. I do think I lean toward Vincent just because, again, I think he's ahead of Oladipo in the rotation, and they're pretty similar point per minute guys. In the postseason so far, Oladipo's at 0.84 DraftKings points per minute. Vincent's at 0.76. So I do think that they're pretty similar. Whichever one's lower owned. Well, if Vincent's lower owned, I like Vincent more. If it gets to where, Oladipo's lower owned, then I think it makes it closer for me. But you do still have to keep in mind that there's a non-zero chance Vincent plays quite a bit more than Oladipo.
Yeah, so we have right now, Vincent is $200 more on DraftKings. He's projected for 18% ownership compared to that 20.6 number on Oladipo. On FanDuel at 8,500, mentioned for Oladipo projected for 20% ownership. At 7,000, Vincent is projected for 13% ownership. I think Vincent is going way under-owned right now on FanDuel relative to that number. He's $1,500 less expensive than Oladipo and projected for about half the ownership. So like Gabe Vincent from that standpoint for sure. And another thing that comes with some of these players in the ownership projections, and this is something I've brought up multiple times over the course of the playoffs and actually comes up on almost every single show, is there's so much recency bias and people love Victor Oladipo so much. I find it hard to believe he isn't going to be a chalk play on this slate. And I do think that Vincent ultimately makes for a good pivot play. So we'll see where that ownership projection winds up. But I do think that he's going to end up being a little more popular than he ends up being projected, just because projections are mathematically based. And there's just a lot of bias and human element that goes into this. It's kind of hard to account for. Talking about some of the other guys on the Heat, though, is there anybody that you see as a deep flyer play that could also benefit from the absence of Tyler Hero, maybe like a Duncan Robinson or anybody along those lines?
Yeah, I was going to say Robinson. Like, I don't think that it's the most likely outcome, but if you think about, like, if they just go into this and say, Vincent can replace Hero's bench minutes with the ball in his hands, we need someone else to add 3-point shooting off the bench, then that's clearly Robinson ahead of Oladipo. I don't necessarily think that's the most likely case. He's very clearly not been a preferred part of this rotation for a while now. But, if that is the thinking, if it's just like, look, we need somebody that has some chance at knocking down threes, then maybe you do see Robinson get some more run. I think it's at least worth, a dart throw there. Yeah.
And that's going to depend how many lineups you play. If you're playing 1 or 3 lineups, I don't think that's where Duncan Robinson would come into play. But if you're somebody who plays a whole bunch of lineups, what are the odds of him landing in the rotation and playing some semblance of minutes? I think there's a small chance of it. And he's projected for 0.7% ownership right now on FanDuel. On DK, he's projected for 3.4% ownership. Nobody is going there. It's really hard to differentiate on a one-game slate. And anywhere where I think we could maybe differentiate and reasonably find upside, I think that somebody like Duncan Robinson could potentially fall into the mix there, especially if the Heat get down in this game. I know that a lot of people are just going to think, hey, the Heat are better than the Celtics because they just won a game where Jimmy Butler only played half the game. But the Celtics are 7-point favorites in this game. This is a fairly wide spread. So the most likely outcome is Boston ends up getting ahead. And if the Heat need shooting in the fourth quarter, they have Duncan Robinson, who they've paid $90 million to do nothing to this point. So, hey, this could be the time where he comes in, has to try to shoot some shots to get them back into the game. Let's talk about some of the more expensive options on the Heat. And I think this has to start with Jimmy Butler and kind of how he compares to Jason Tatum. How concerned are you with his knee after he was only able to play half of last game?
I'm pretty concerned here. I don't know. I've mentioned it before. I think the most difficult thing in DFS, for NBA DFS, is trying to figure out how to project someone that's dealing with an injury, because assuming he plays, I think you kind of have to assume that he's at least somewhat capable of playing. But the concern I have is that, one, obviously he missed the second half of last game, but he also only had a 17% usage rate in the first half of that game, which suggests that he was playing through it, but not very effectively. Still wasn't bad, from a fantasy standpoint. Had like 19 DraftKings points, but seeing somebody that has maintained about a 30% usage rate throughout the postseason, then come out there and have a 17% usage rate in the first half and not play the second half, certainly doesn't make me feel great about what it's going to look like, assuming he does play tonight.
So with that in mind, because once again, there's only two real pay-up options in terms of the upper echelon of players, and I have to lean towards Jason Tatum over Jimmy Butler for this spot, just because of some of the concerns about the knee. And, once again, right now, in terms of ownership projections, these guys are going to both be super popular. What's also really funny? Bam Adebayo is going to be uber popular now. He has one good game. Everybody's been telling me for a week how much Bam Adebayo sucks. He's no good. We're idiots for playing him. He has one good game, and everybody's going to play him today. There's three guys projected for north of 60% ownership on DraftKings today.
Yeah, Jason Tatum, it's kind of a broken price on Bam. But to your point, like, if you project Bam with his regular season rates and you kind of blend in his postseason production, he's still clearly underpriced. If you just use his regular season rates, he's wildly underpriced. If you just use his postseason rates, he's overpriced. So, like, it's not to say he can't fail here, but he does kind of just look like a broken price tag when you compare him to a lot of the other guys.
Yeah, but the other thing too is, sure, he's $7,600 on DraftKings. It's a broken. 8,000 was a broken price on Bam last slate also.
Yeah, and I didn't play that slate, and he of course went nuts.
And he was, I'm going off the top of my head, I think he was 33% owned on DraftKings in the $20, and he's going to be something like double that today, just because of one game. So this also just goes to show how much recency bias could factor into some of this stuff, but. Three guys on DraftKings project for over 60% ownership: Tatum, Adebayo, and Butler. Then over on FanDuel, Adebayo a little bit lesser owned, where he's 46%, but also he's a little pricier. But the two most popular plays on FanDuel, once again, Jason Tatum at 58%, Jimmy Butler at 64%. Just given some of the concerns about Jimmy Butler's knee, I'm going to lean toward Jason Tatum as the stronger fantasy option. Now, I know there could be some concerns potentially about Jason Tatum's shoulder, because he very briefly left the end of last game with, I don't even know what it was that they officially said, but he was holding the shoulder. He was down in pain, went to the locker room, comes right back in a minute or so later. But given some of the concerns about Jimmy Butler, and we'll add Jason Tatum in here as well, would you rather pay up for Jason Tatum or Jimmy Butler if you're making a decision between the two?
I would lean Tatum just because I'm less concerned about his injury, but that also comes with the caveat of it's very difficult to work injury concerns into ownership projections. So I'm not completely sold that you actually get the same ownership on Tatum and Butler. If they are the same ownership, then I would want to go Tatum, just because I think they're more or less the same play anyway when they're both healthy, and there's just less question marks on Tatum here. But I also don't think that's some like crazy line of logic that nobody else is going to think of. So I do expect that you actually do see a little bit of a gap between those two, and it makes me sort of not care quite as much which one I get to, but I think I would still just lean Tatum.
Yeah, I project Tatum better. Tatum was the better fantasy producer across the entirety of the regular season. And also the Celtics have a better defense than the Heat, regardless of what happened last game. For the year, we've seen Boston as a better defense than Miami. And then something else that helps, we do have Robert Williams back in the mix for the Boston Celtics. He's a very valuable defensive piece. So that's something else just bolsters the defense a little bit. Although I guess the Heat defense in some semblance probably is benefiting from the absence of Tyler Hero. But that aside, I think Jason Tatum has a slightly easier matchup than what Jimmy Butler has. But both of them strong options. I'm just making the point that if I had to roster one, if somebody's building a single entry lineup and wants to know who to play in the MVP spot, or just only has the salary to spend up for one of them, I would slightly lean towards Jason Tatum. So let's talk.
I mean, one other, I guess, tiebreaker. And again, this is one of those where like I'm mentioning it, but I don't really know how you would how it would actually be actionable in most cases. But like, I guess if you're making like one lineup and you just really are torn between them, one other thing to keep in mind, not that you're expecting this game to blow out, but I would expect that Butler's a little bit quicker to get to the bench in the fourth quarter if the game's not competitive than he otherwise would be in a postseason game, just because there's no reason for him not to be.
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. And then also, I think it's a salient point we said before about Jimmy Butler is probably hurting in the first half of that game as well, because his usage rate was so down. Although maybe that was also a factor of the score was so one-sided and he didn't really feel the need to exert himself at that point in time. By the way, we do have an injury update here. Marcus Smart remains questionable. I don't have too much doubt that Marcus Smart is going to play just because he was able to finish last game with the ankle injury. Do you have any concerns at this point?
So Texan chat said, legitimately questionable is when you're questionable with an actual health issue, as opposed to being questionable with sore hair or something. I think that sums up most of the Max Strus questionable tags this series.
Has he been questionable every game of the postseason?
I think so, yeah. Which
just absolutely totally absurd. The Heat are listing everybody as questionable, and here's how ridiculous it is. So Jimmy Butler, who once again was officially questionable, now on track to play, whatever that's supposed to mean. Almost 15 minutes on the broadcast after he got ruled out during last game, another report came out that he was expected to play on Monday, which I'm like, that's weird. It's that soon after they ruled him out. They know he's going to play in the next game, but maybe they just thought there was no chance the Celtics were going to come back, whatever it may be. But yeah, the Heat's injury report have certainly been weird.
And I still contend that Bam has actually been hurt for like the entire postseason, and they're just not listing him because he was the only guy actually hurt.
But he's good now, apparently, because he had that one good game last time out where he totally crushed. He looked fantastic last game. We'll talk about Bam in a second.
It did come with some coach speak too. And I noticed it just because like I said, I didn't play the slate. I played like 35% Bam the day before, and then I'm just on Twitter, and the first thing I see like right after the game tips off is how Spoelstra talked at shoot around about Bam needing to get going offensively and be more aggressive. I'm like, okay, I know how this is going to go since I didn't play, and then Bam just lights it up. So I mean, you did have the Spoelstra like vote of confidence leading into that as well.
Yeah, and so I played a lot of Adebayo in DFS that day, but one thing I didn't do that I've been doing is I've been betting the overs on his alternate lines, because there's just been crazy lines available where it's like you get Bam Adebayo like 7-1 to score 20 plus points, or like 20-1 to score 25 plus points. And I've been betting those, and eventually I was like, all right, I'm getting my ass kicked by these Bam Adebayo props. I'm just going to stop doing it. And it would have all paid off and been worth it if I just continued doing it for one more game. And now the ship has sailed. There's no more value left in those, but the one thing I wanted to ask you about Marcus Smart before we talk about the rest of the Heat is, with him remaining questionable, do you have concerns that he's actually going to sit today?
Not really. I mean, I think he plays, but I also thought he was going to play the last game that he missed. So,
yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think he plays. Once again, the ankle injury looked terrible when it happened, but he was able to come back a few minutes later. It wasn't a Paul Pierce situation where he shit his pants and had to leave the court. Like, this was a real legitimate injury for Marcus Smart. Like, he was in tears, screaming and holding his ankle, and it looked terrible in slow motion. He got his ankle trapped underneath. I forget who the player was. Maybe it was PJ Tucker's fat ass, or one of the big bootied Heat players. He just got it caught underneath him. It got tangled up. It looked pretty bad. I would thought for sure he was done for the postseason. I thought his foot might have been broken, but considering he's able to come back that game, I assume he probably plays tonight. But let's talk about Bam from a DFS perspective now, because for a while, you and I and Josh, who's in chat, we were playing a lot of Bam Adebayo, telling people, in fact, Bam Adebayo does not suck. He's just had a weird fluke occurrence of a few bad games in a row. Nobody wanted to hear about it, but now he's had one good game, and I assume that all of those concerns about Bam Adebayo sucking have gone by the wayside by the field. He is $7,600 on DraftKings. He's $13,000 on FanDuel, a little bit more of an appropriate price point. But now that the ownership has also come up on Bam, How are you going to approach him? Because who's to say he doesn't turn back into the low usage guy from 2 games ago?
Yeah, I mean, I still think he's a good play at this ownership just because, again, the price tag is just so favorable. Like with Robert Williams in, I think it makes Bam clearly look better than Al Horford. Not saying that Williams being in is good for Bam, just saying that it's bad for Horford, both in terms of playing time and rebounding opportunities. But like, for example, Marcus Smart's $1,000 more than Bam. Even if we assume Smart's 100%, which he probably isn't, and going to play, which I'm assuming he is, I don't want to pay $1,000 more for Marcus Smart on average than Bam, especially when, you're still talking about 45% ownership going to Smart. Kyle Lowry, playing through an injury of his own and pretty difficult to project for more than like 30 to 32 minutes, is only $1,000 less. Max Strus is less than $1,000 less. As good as he's been this postseason, he's still only averaging 0.83 DraftKings points per minute, and he's essentially a scoring dependent, low usage guy. I mean, those guys can disappear pretty easily. There's just not a lot of mid-range guys that I feel, even if you concede that, like, Bam has had one good game basically this postseason, there's not a lot of guys that I can look, there's like no guys I can look at in the mid-range and say, like, that doesn't have like a but, and point out something that I don't like about them.
Yeah, and once again, with Bam Adebayo, I don't know what the hell happened to those couple of games, and I don't think we're ever going to know. I tend to think it's not injury related. You'd made this point the other day, is every single player on the Heat has been getting listed as questionable. If he's actually hurt, why is he the only guy not on the injury report? I think it was just a fluke. We see this happen. Guys, maybe it was a confidence thing. He had a couple bad playoff games and he just felt tentative to shoot because of that. I don't know. I'm just grasping at straws because something didn't really make sense when you see these string of games in a row from Bam Adebayo, 25 fantasy points, 25, 24, 20. But then he breaks out in a big way last game, 31 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 stocks, scores over 60. So I think he's just fine. It was 5 games in a row that we're probably never going to know why he sucked so much for those games. But I think he's just going to be fine moving forward. So he's a really high priority play for me, despite how popular he is. If you guys are playing cash games on a single game slate, I think Bam Adebayo should be in that lineup, particularly on DraftKings, just because he is so underpriced. But I also want to ask you about Kyle Lowry, because you just brought him up and he's playing now. I tend to think that he's not quite 100%, because if he was, I think the minutes would be a little bit more extended, but he played 29 minutes last game. Points per minute, not bad. 29 fantasy points in 29 minutes. What do you think we could expect from him as an upside for his playing time today? Not an average projection, but what do you think is the upper bound limit of his playing time?
36.
And does that
I don't know. It's kind of a tough one because, like, I don't think he gets there very often, but if you're just asking for like the ceiling, 36 kind of seems reasonable since he just played 30. But then at the same time, like with Hero out, if in this hypothetical, Lowry's physically capable of playing 36 minutes, can he really not play 38? You know what I mean? It kind of feels like a situation where like his ceiling is either 32 or it's like 38. I'm not sure there's like a 34, 35 minute ceiling in there, just because like that doesn't make a ton of sense. It's like it feels like it's either he's limited to like 32 minutes or he's a full go with Hero out.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of think that Lowry becomes really interesting on this slate. He is 34% owned over on FanDuel right now, on DraftKings 40%, but also I think there's a chance he comes in underweight to that number, just because I think there is a really wide range of outcomes with Lowry, and maybe just feels better this game than did last game. Or maybe he'd have no choice. Maybe they get down by 10 points or something like that in the fourth quarter. Once again, 7-point spread in this game. That's not crazy unlikely. And they just say, hey, if we're going to get back into this game, Lowry has to play a few extra minutes. And then you look at the other guys priced around him. I'd rather play Lowry at 6,600 than Strus at 6,800 at similar ownership. Over on FanDuel, we have Lowry at 10,500. Strus is a lot cheaper over on FanDuel at 9,000. But I mean, at least from a DK comparison standpoint, is it fair to say you'd rather play Lowry at 66 than Strus at 68?
I think they're pretty close for me. I do think you could certainly see Strus get more minutes with Hero out here as well. Like, he does add 3-point shooting. He can defend. So I do like his playing time a bit. Like, it wouldn't be shocking if you got like 6, 7 minutes more from Strus than Lowry. Like, if Lowry plays 30 minutes, ownership's a little bit lower on Strus. I think they're actually really comparable for me.
Yeah, that's fair. I have Lowry a little bit ahead of him. And I'm also just going to boost him because I think there's a playing time upside with Lowry that's really hard to predict, but it's a single game showdown lineup. I care more about the ceiling than anything else. We do have a super chat from our guy, Michael McKinney. He wants to know who our favorite MVP and favorite 2 utility FanDuel cash options are. So if you're playing a cash game, you're trying to get as much floor as possible. Who are you playing in the MVP spot on FanDuel? That is going to be Jason Tatum for me, who I've projected for the most points.
Yeah, Tatum.
And then as for favorite 2 utility plays, let's see, in the FanDuel build I made, who ends up coming the most frequent in utility, I get to PJ Tucker a lot at 8,000. I think he's a very strong utility play over on FanDuel. So when it comes to PJ Tucker, I don't think the absence of Tyler Hero benefits him directly, but just in general, there's more playing time available for the Heat. There's a little bit more usage available. It's hard to find cheap guys to get to, and an $8,000 price point for PJ Tucker makes sense. The other one that pops up a lot for me is Max Strus at 9,000. Just another guy, benefits from the absence of Tyler Hero, and 9,000 is a really cheap price point for Max Strus. I don't think he's unplayable on DraftKings by any means, but a $9,000 salary on FanDuel is a little bit more favorable than a $6,800 salary over on DK. So Tucker and Strus for me. Anything else to add to that, Adam?
No, sounds good to me.
All right. So let's round out talking about the Heat guys now. And I guess PJ Tucker, I just talked about him a little bit for FanDuel purposes. DK as well. I think he's a solid looking value option. The upside isn't massive when it comes to PJ Tucker, but either way, I think that the minutes floor is pretty good. It's a single game slate, and I think he's certainly a viable source of salary savings. Is PJ Tucker you envision yourself getting to a decent amount on DraftKings? And once again, FanDuel, I think he's a really strong play as well.
Yeah, he was my favorite value guy this morning on the strategy show. Now, obviously, it's closer. Like you can throw Vincent and Oladipo into that conversation. But yeah, I mean, Tucker, for one, and I mean, it sounds ridiculous because like we spend so much time in DFS making fun of PJ Tucker's offensive game. He's a important part of their offense, given that they have no 3-point shooting, outside of basically him and Strus and Vincent off the bench. So there's that, but also defensively, plays a really big role here. And if he can avoid foul trouble, it's very likely you're getting, upper 30s from him at a really cheap price tag. So I really like Tucker, even though his relative value goes down a little bit with the emergence of Vincent and Oladipo.
And then the only thing left to round out the Heat is we've got guys at the bottom of the pricing tier like Dwayne Dedmon, Caleb Martin. I think there is some viability to them, but not as much as there has been on other slates because we have guys like Oladipo, Vincent, Tucker we could play for cheap. I don't really think we need to stretch that much to get to these super cheap salary saving options. Do you agree with that? Or are you still looking to get to guys like Dedmon or Martin?
Yeah, I mean, I would really like to avoid it if I can. Dedmon basically wasn't in the rotation last game. If he does get his 10 to 12 minutes, there's certainly some upside for him there at the cheap price tag. Same goes for Caleb Martin. Like maybe they just say with Hero out, screw offense and we're just going to go for more defense and they play Martin more. I don't think that happens, but maybe. And they're cheap enough that if you need to save money, that's where you go. But I'm not going into building lineups hoping to get to those guys. I would be perfectly fine if I don't.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page there. I mean, there's been times where I felt like I was forced to play Dedmon in this series because of a lack of value. I just don't feel that way today. And he played a fairly limited role last game. So I don't really feel like I'm forced to. How are you doing on your baseball lineups, by the way?
Getting there.
Okay. So today's show, guys, it is sponsored by Prize Picks. If you've not signed up at Prize Picks for the first time, you could use the promo code Awesemo and get up to $100 bonus on your first deposit. Really good way to help build your bankroll. And I'm going to look over a Prize Picks right now, and I'll try to find some props also that I think you guys could take some stabs on to help build some Prize Picks cards out of. So looking at Prize Picks, and also we have a Prize Picks tool over on Awesemo.com right now. So I'm going to compare some of those numbers with some of my numbers and see ones that stand out. Right off the bat, here's one that I liked the other day, and I still think makes sense. So Bam Adebayo, who most people didn't like before. I think people feel a little bit better about Bam Adebayo now. He's an over-under of 8.5 rebounds over on Prize Picks. We have him projected around 11. I'm not quite at 11, but I'm still well over the 8.5 mark. I'm right around 10. So I think it's a little bit too low of a number on Bam Adebayo. If you look at his numbers overall for the season, which I think is a little bit better of an indication for what we could expect from Bam Adebayo as compared to just the last 5 games, Adebayo averaged 9.6 rebounds per game in 33 minutes. But now we're in a playoff scenario, which means that Bam Adebayo is going to play extended minutes. He played 42 minutes last game. If we're going to get 42 minutes out of Bam Adebayo, which I don't think should be the expectation today, But I do think that it's a pretty good indicator at the very least that on average, we're getting more minutes than his regular season numbers. We should project Bam Adebayo for double-digit rebounds in this spot. And considering that his prize pick number is only at 8.5, I don't think it's reacted enough to the fact that Bam Adebayo doesn't, in fact, actually suck in the playoffs. So I feel good about the over for Bam Adebayo there. And one other over that makes sense in our projections that I also like, Kyle Lowry over 3 rebounds. This is a very, very low rebound prop from over a prize picks. I don't think he's 100% healthy, but he looked fairly good out there last game. He played 29 minutes. At the very least, I don't think he's going to play less than 29 minutes. So I think that's something we could feel good about when it comes to Kyle Lowry. Over 3 rebounds, at least in our projections, 80% projected win rate. So really high win probability. Those are 2 rebound props that I think make sense to take overs on over prize picks. Kyle Lowry over 3 rebounds, Bam Adebayo over 8.5 rebounds. Also, don't forget, sign up using the promo code Awesemo, get up to $100 bonus on your first deposit.
One other thing to mention there, just with the overs on those guys, is you get there's like a little bit of added equity too, just knowing that Butler could start and then not finish.
Yeah, that's true also, because I mean, we only have to go back 1 game to see it. And I know that Jimmy Butler has the reputation of being the toughest guy in the NBA, but his games played statistic would beg to differ. And not to mention, he's now missed half a game in this playoff series. And last series against the Hawks, or 2 series ago against the Hawks, he missed the closeout game with an injury, and he got injured the game before. So Jimmy Butler has had a lot of knee issues and seems like it's something that's popping up right now as well. Let's move on talking about the Boston Celtics side of the game. And I mean, I don't think we have to talk too much more about Jason Tatum just because we've kind of already laid it out. To me, the most important talking point when it comes to Jason Tatum is him versus Jimmy Butler. Everybody knows that they want to get some amount of exposure to Jason Tatum or Jimmy Butler. You and I both seem to be on the same page there that we slightly prefer Tatum to Butler. Now, last slate, somehow neither of them landed in the optimal lineup. Tatum sucks. Butler leaves at halftime. The winning lineup just ends up leaving a ton of salary on the table with neither of them. But moving down with the rest of the Boston Celtics guys and the injury to Marcus Smart, I think he plays. You think he plays also. But what ends up happening here if Marcus Smart doesn't end up playing?
I think Peyton Pritchard steps up. He's $5K. Like he's at a price point right now where if Smart is in, I think it's very difficult to want to roster Pritchard unless you're just making a what if Marcus Smart leaves early lineup. But if Smart is out, then I assume Derek White moves into the starting lineup again. Peyton Pritchard comes off the bench, but both guys would play more minutes. And Pritchard has, at least offensively, certainly been better than White this postseason. You can say what you want about him defensively, but White hasn't been very good on the defensive end, at least in this series so far either. So I think that it would make both guys certainly look better, but Peyton Pritchard's the one that I would actually be a little bit more interested in, I think, especially if he's going to get a little bit less ownership, assuming White starts.
All right, let me see, because you never know in chat. Sometimes people get fooled by fake tweets or that or other information. I haven't seen anything from Woj that Marcus Smart wouldn't play, which is what somebody in chat had said. So I was just double checking. Here's the Woj tweet, just so I can read it off for everybody. There's more optimism that Boston's Robert Williams will return to the lineup tonight than Marcus Smart in game 4. I don't know what the hell that means. It doesn't mean that Smart is or isn't playing. It doesn't mean Robert Williams is or isn't playing. Like, optimism is a really, I don't know. It's a very weird term. It doesn't mean to me that he's likely to be in or out. And also it's in comparison to Robert Williams. So what does this tweet mean to you? There's more optimism that Boston's Robert Williams will return to the lineup than Marcus Smart. But, it's on ESPN. He's saying right now that he's leaning towards being out. Okay, well, that's different than
to me, that reads more like Smart trending doubtful, Williams trending probable, but I don't know. It's pretty vague. All
right. So, well, either way, people are saying that he's on ESPN right now. I don't have any way of knowing because I'm doing a show. I can't turn the TV on. But if Woj is on TV saying right now that Marcus Smart is not likely to play, well, that's a totally different scenario. And this is something now to talk about in a different way. So I guess what happened here is Marcus Smart, even though he's able to return and look pretty good last game, I guess it's swelled up since then. It was a pretty nasty looking ankle injury when it happened. But now it seems if what Woj is saying on TV is what he's saying on TV, if he does end up not playing, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, which of them do you think looks like a better option?
Ownership would actually matter to me a lot there, and this is assuming Derek White starts because that's what we'd seen previously, but doesn't have to be the case. Assuming Derek White starts and assuming he is more popular by a decent margin than Pritchard, because that's what we've seen in the past. I would actually like Pritchard a little bit more in tournaments. If you get similar ownership or, Pritchard more popular and White starting, I'd rather go to White. He's at least going to get the first opportunity to look like he can play basketball, which up until recently he could. Like, it's not like Derek White has this long track record of not being good. He's been a good player for a while. So there's certainly there's no guarantee that this plays out the same way it has in the past, where White ends up, not getting closing minutes and Pritchard basically plays him off the floor. But Pritchard has played well so far in this series, and I don't think that should really be discounted either. So ownership would play a big role. If they're similar in ownership, I would just lean toward whoever's starting, because I think that is where more minutes typically are going to go. If you do get a big gap between whoever's starting and whoever's coming off the bench, especially if it's Pritchard coming off the bench, then I would prefer going there in tournaments.
Yeah, and then I'll also bring up right now what we have over on FanDuel, where Pritchard's actually more expensive than Derek White. Pritchard is 7,500. Derek White is 7,000. If White is going to start at 7,000, that is a really difficult value play to avoid. And before, to reference Michael McKinney's super chat, where he asked us best cash value plays for the utility spot, that would be Derek White in a landslide as number one if he's starting at 7,000 on FanDuel. Does that follow with you? Do you agree?
You said in utility?
Yeah, he has for utility on FanDuel.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I mean that to me would pretty easily become the best value play on the slate there with Derek White. Talking about some of the other Celtics guys now, where does Jalen Brown fit in the mix with you? Because I've found that in so many times in this series, I just land on Jalen Brown either when I'm hand building lineups or just making my lineups in Fantasy Cruncher, because nobody's ever priced around Jalen Brown. He's in this pricing tier of his own. So if you have the remaining salary where you're making a lineup and it's around him, he's the option. He's $14,000 on FanDuel. There's nobody within $500 of him. You've got Jason Tatum at 15,000, Bam Adebayo at 13. So he's kind of on an island. Then same thing on DK. He's 9,800. It appears now we're taking Marcus Smart out of consideration if he's not going to be playing. So the next guy closest to him on the cheap end is Al Horford at 7,400. Oh, no, Bam Adebayo at 7,600. So if you get to this spot where you have like $10,000, 10-2 left over, there's nobody to get to but Jalen Brown. So by default, he becomes a massively important play. Do you see any pushback against ending up playing a lot of Jalen Brown?
No, I think that all makes sense. In theory, if Smart's out, there's potentially some more ball handling too. The caveat there is that we saw that really not work out for Brown and Tatum in whichever game it was that Smart and Horford both missed. So I think maybe you see Horford facilitating a little bit more as well. But from a ceiling standpoint, I think that there's at least some more playmaking available for Brown if he's able to make it work.
Yeah. And by the way, news guy, you didn't have to delete that guy's message, but I just thought it was so dumb that I could read it off anyway. The guy said that if he owned DraftKings, he would make all contests single entry and make the tournaments bigger. Yeah, there's not enough people to fill the contest then. That's why you can't just have you can't have every millionaire maker be a single entry contest because there's not enough people. You need
so if he owned DraftKings, he would just
a
massive overlay every day and donate to everybody.
if you own DraftKings, the company wouldn't exist anymore because
I would like to give this guy a platform and let him buy DraftKings.
It's not like who would be very upset about this? Jason Roslin, whose the stock prices would go down even further, and then he'd be beside himself on Twitter. So think about Jason Roslin. Don't do it for Jason. You can't just create that much overlay. But let's talk about the rest of the guys on Boston now. And the other one that's really interesting to me here is Robert Williams, who's such a good fantasy producer, but he has been bothered by this knee injury for a really long period of time now. He missed the last, month of the regular season after undergoing knee surgery, comes back in the Nets series, plays limited minutes, works himself back into the starting lineup, looks really good, but then he ends up missing time again. He's banged up, comes back, looks really good, and then he gets injured again against the Heat, and now he misses time. When he's been on the court, he's producing really well from a fantasy perspective, but realistically, what could we expect from Robert Williams from a playing time perspective?
It's been kind of difficult for me to gauge because it seemed like, you had him miss the couple of games against Milwaukee, then he was available, still didn't play, kind of made me think that he was, going to be limited. But they were like, oh no, he's been practicing, and then he comes out and plays like 30 minutes in the game with Horford out. It kind of just seems like his knee flares up and then he goes back to being fine. I'm hesitant to give him 30 minutes or anything like that here, but I don't think that's off the table if he plays well and doesn't re-aggravate it. I think expecting something like 24 probably makes the most sense to me, though.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't have him projected particularly well right now. Do you expect him to start?
Yes, but I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't, but I do expect him to.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen on multiple occasions where if he's been limited, he hasn't been in the starting lineup. I'll feel better about his playing time if he ends up starting. I mean, that's
Agreed.
kind of common sense, but if he comes off the bench, I mean, we've seen a game where he was active, came off the bench, played 0 minutes. So if he comes off the bench, I don't think I'm going to get any exposure to him. Where's his ownership at right now, though? All right, Robert Williams, we have him projected for, let's see if there's been an update at all for the Marcus Smart news yet. There has been 28 seconds ago. Good timing. But Marcus Smart is still in, so that's not going to matter. But Robert Williams at 6,400 is projected for 25% ownership on DraftKings. Over on FanDuel at 11,000, a little bit of a steep price point. He's projected for 27% ownership. Do you view that as a number you'd like to be overweight to in tournaments, even with the field, or underweight to?
For Williams?
For Time Lord.
I mean, 18%'s kind of nice. Assuming he starts, I wouldn't mind getting above that just because, I mean, you're talking about a fantasy point per minute guy. He only played like 21 minutes in game one, but that was also a blowout where nobody played in the fourth quarter. I don't know if he would have come back or not, but like at 18% on a 1-game slate, the ceiling is just so high. If it is a case where it's just like, yeah, my knee flared up and now my knee is fine and I'm going to go play 28, 30 minutes. I wouldn't mind gambling there and just kind of hoping for the best as long as the ownership stays as low as it is.
Yeah, and by the way, for people asking us about Marcus Smart, we don't know if he's playing or not. The latest news that we got, and also Adam and I are hearing this like third hand. Woj was on ESPN and gave a report that Marcus Smart is apparently trending towards not playing, and we've heard that via other people in the chat. So I don't know exactly what the terminology was that he used, but that is why that we are kind of under the assumption that Smart's a little bit more likely to sit than play. Officially, we don't know whether he's going to be out there, and who knows, maybe Marcus Smart will try to play and not be able to finish. But as of right now, that is the information that we are going off of and making some assumptions on. Another guy who's been really a standout performer for the Celtics throughout the playoffs has been Al Horford. And last game, he played 42 minutes, put up 20 points, 14 rebounds. Now, obviously, there was other circumstance involved. Robert Williams was out, and then there was a bunch of guys in and out of the Celtics lineup. Marcus Smart briefly left with an injury. We also had Jason Tatum very briefly leave with an injury. Once again, we don't know exactly what the Tatum injury was. It was some sort of shoulder injury, but he's going to be playing tonight. When it comes to Al Horford, if we're somewhat skeptical about the upside in Robert Williams playing time, should we expect to get around 40 minutes from Horford again?
If you're skeptical of the Williams playing time, I think that's really fair, especially also if Marcus Smart were to sit, obviously different positions, but there is a role for Horford as a facilitator, taking on a bigger role if Smart is out. And then you add that to the fact that we don't know how many minutes Robert Williams is going to play. It wouldn't be surprising if you got 40 from Horford.
Yeah, and let's see, what did we get? So we got 42 minutes from him last game. The game before that, he played 33, but that game was a blowout. The game before, he was out because he was in the COVID protocols. Final game against Milwaukee, 40. The game before that, 38. The game before that, 41. So, yeah, I mean, a game that's not necessarily must win from the Celtics. They were down 3-1 last series. They came back to win, but obviously they would like to win this game. They would prefer to not be down 3-1. So I do think we see bigger minutes than normal out of guys like Tatum, Brown, and Horford has been in that mix as somebody who's also played extended minutes. One other Marcus Smart talking point here before we kind of get off of him and the point guard situation altogether. If he does play now, and considering some of these reports we've gotten that it's really coming down to a game time decision and it's really iffy, but kind of leaning towards him being out, does this give you more hesitancy to play him in tournaments even if we find out that he's active?
Yeah, because it seems to indicate that he's relatively likely to start but not finish the game. If it's, as bad as they're making it sound, if it's like, oh, he's going to go out there and test it out, and he might just, not last very long. But the flip side to that is also that ownership comes down. And if you tell me, and the other thing with Smart is that he's already expensive too at 8,600. So you're taking somebody that is overpriced, and then you're adding on a lot of risk. The caveat would be, if the projected ownership does come down a lot, or even if the projected ownership doesn't come down, but you personally think it's going to, that's a spot where then it's like, okay, well, what if Marcus Smart is perfectly fine and plays 38 minutes and I get him at 10, 15% owned, obviously you would love that. But that's a pretty extreme example, and so I think that more likely I would be very hesitant to get Smart at that price.
Did you cut out just now, or did I cut out?
I don't know.
All right. Well, whatever it was, I was convinced you disappeared on me, and then you came back at the end. So I don't know exactly what you said, but because I have the utmost amount of faith in Adam, I agree with everything he said wholeheartedly, 100%. So, guys, one more time, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, if you guys want free money, which you should, because it's hard to win money at DFS and betting, but free money is free. It's easy to win free money. We have a special live before lock offer available with BetMGM. If you're signing up at BetMGM for the first time, you bet $10 on any NBA money line, and as long as the team hits a three-pointer in the game, which is going to happen, that's a lock, you get $200 for free. Here's what you do. You sign up using the link in the description box below, or sign up using the promo code LBLBETS. Bet $10, you can get $200 for free. Don't leave a chance to get free money on the table. That's the easiest way to win money in sports betting DFS. Free money, handouts. Take advantage of it. So let's talk about the rest of the guys on the Celtics now. And kind of Marcus Smart situation aside, is there anybody you view as a deep flyer that's worth taking shots on from Boston?
Not really. I mean, the only guys I guess I would throw out there are Naismith. Maybe somehow gets in the rotation for a few minutes. I have a really hard time thinking Tice does, assuming Williams plays. But even that, I mean, I think Boston's a more difficult team to find flyers for, because outside of Naismith, there's like nobody that I think even is really possibly in the rotation. Whereas, Miami, you have Caleb Martin that is in the rotation. You have Duncan Robinson, who for some reason is 3K, but, maybe steps up into the rotation. You have Dedmon, who maybe plays a little bit more. Boston, it's a lot more difficult, I think.
Yeah, I'm on the same page as you. And the key here is that we have guys that are actually out and there's value to be had. There's so many showdown contests where, like, yesterday I played a bunch of Moses Moody in the Warriors series, not because I thought Moody was going to be some great player or anything, but he was ahead of Damian Lee in the rotation the game before. Steve Kerr said he was going to be ahead of him in the rotation the next game. And we had guys like Steph Curry and Luka Doncic to pay up for, and there wasn't value. And that's a situation be like, hey, maybe Moody scores some fantasy points off the bench. And he ended up being optimal, scoring 5 fantasy points. I don't think that's necessary in this game. Number one, we don't have a Luka Doncic type player to pay up for. But the other thing, too, is that we have actual value from the Heat side of the game. And, whichever one you guys prefer, it doesn't even really matter as much. But there's PJ Tucker, there's Victor Oladipo, there's Gabe Vincent. These are all guys that should project well on a points per dollar basis. So that just makes guys like a Daniel Tice or an Aaron Nesmith kind of unnecessary as a punt option. I don't expect them to be in the rotation anyway. So unnecessary for me on this particular slate, barring a blowout or some other crazy injury news to come out. I just don't think it's something that's going to be all that important. The only other Celtics rotation player we have not yet talked about is Grant Williams. And maybe my least favorite play in this game right now. He is $5,200 over on DraftKings and projected to be somewhat popular, nearly 30% ownership. On FanDuel, Grant Williams, 9,500 projected for 23% ownership. I just don't think the playing time is going to be high enough for him to really produce. And he's a shitty points per minute fantasy producer. He's had some
I
really
liked him
good
a lot more if we had assumed Robert Williams wasn't going to play. I thought that it was likely Grant Williams would start in place of Tice this time and just play a ton of minutes. But if Robert Williams is in, and Horford is in, which I don't know any reason why he wouldn't be, it's kind of difficult to see where the minutes come from for Grant Williams. Not to say that like he's not going to play. I think he plays around 30, but at 0.66, 0.7 DraftKings points per minute and being in 1/4 to 1/3 of the lineups, I don't really know where the advantage is to getting to him there. I think that I would rather, even though I don't really like Oladipo, if he were only 24% owned, I would rather get there. We have Vincent at 16%. I would certainly rather get there for less money than Grant Williams.
Yeah, I'm just looking at and everything's going to change for me after this Marcus Smart news comes out, because I built my lineups before the show, assuming that Smart was going to be playing. If he's out, that's going to change the dynamics of the projections, ownership, and all that. But assuming nothing changes too drastically with Grant Williams ownership-wise, I think he's the player I will be most underweight to on the slate, according to what our current ownership projections are. Is that also something you would agree with?
Yes.
Yeah, and
just to get back to the Oladipo thing real quick.
Okay.
Jason Finn said he'd have no choice. They have to play Jimmy and Depot together a lot for the rest of the series. No, they don't. at all.
Why do they have other players on the roster? It's not like this is a 6-man roster. They've got, we'll pull up the Heat, and I think we've talked about everybody that's pertinent at this point, right?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, we'll talk about some MVP, some captain plays in a second, but we could dive a little bit deeper into this. First of all, I'm not saying they're not going to play together. They could play minutes together. I think Oladipo is a good play, but the idea they have to play them together is not true because there are other guys on the roster. There's Gabe Vincent. There's Caleb Martin. There's Max Strus. There's Kyle Lowry. There's other options they could go to who are not Victor Oladipo. They don't have to play Oladipo a crazy amount of minutes. I have him projected for 24. I think that's more than that. Might even be too high, to be honest. But
yeah, I mean that seems like reasonable to me, and I agree with what you're saying. I'm not with Hero out. I'm not trying to like make it sound like I don't think Oladipo plays or anything like that because I do think that he plays. But the issue that they've had with Oladipo is that the spacing sucks when you have him and Butler on the floor. Nothing has changed there, and they're not in some desperate position. They still have Lowry, they still have Vincent, they still have Strus. I doubt Martin's playing ahead of Oladipo, but they, from a body standpoint, at least, still have him. If you are desperate for three-point shooting, you have Duncan Robinson. Like nothing has changed as far as Oladipo is a guy that needs the ball in his hands. Playing him alongside Jimmy Butler isn't helping either one of them.
Yeah, totally agreed. And by the way, Victor Oladipo did play really good on defense last game, but I mean, the way that the Heat are using him, it's kind of as a homeless man's Jimmy Butler, where it's like, hey, here's a guy who could take up some usage. He could play some defense for us. Their preference they've shown is for them to not share the court together. But, maybe
one other thing, because you mentioned it and a million people have mentioned it today, that Oladipo like played well defensively last game. That's fine and all. But for you to actually, not you, but like in general, for you to make the leap, Oladipo played well defensively last game. He's now like a defensive stopper for Miami that's going to play a big role in the rotation. The logic that's required for that leap is that Eric Spoelstra watched this guy practice and play all season long, had no idea he was a capable defender, then watched him play in the second half of a shitty of a postseason game that wasn't even particularly competitive, and said, oh shit, I didn't know this guy could play defense. I'm going to completely change how I feel about him.
Yeah. And by the way, we just got news. Marcus Smart officially ruled out. Robert Williams officially will be in. So we could sum that up in a second. But yeah, I think there's a lot of outcomes with Victor Oladipo. And I know I'd say that a lot. I'm sure that annoys people because people want us to come in here and tell them exactly who to play, the exact amount of minutes they're going to play. But it's not the reality, especially in this series where, all jokes aside about Miami listing half the team as questionable on the injury report, a shit ton of players are banged up at this point in time. A lot of guys are injured, and that leaves a lot of uncertainty with the minutes because we don't have access to the players. We don't have access to the coaches, the training staff. We don't know how healthy all these guys are individually. And for all we know, Jimmy Butler might go out there. He might play 8 minutes and be like, hey, my knee still feels like shit. I can't play. And then Oladipo plays extended minutes. That in itself, I think, is reason to really like Victor Oladipo as a tournament option. But we're just bringing up the point here that Victor Oladipo and Jimmy Butler do not have to play together. So I think if you're playing a bunch of lineups and you're just lock buttoning Victor Oladipo, I think that's a mistake as well. But Let's get back to talking about the Boston Celtics. And now with news that Marcus Smart is officially out and Robert Williams is officially in, who are we looking at as the best value options from the Celtics?
White and Pritchard.
Yeah, so we've got Derek White. Price points on these guys. Derek White, $7,000 over on FanDuel. Peyton Pritchard, $7,500. So let's do it this way. Considering those price points, without knowing any other information right now, who would you prefer to play in a lineup from a projection standpoint? Derek White at $7K or Peyton Pritchard at $75?
Depends a lot on the ownership for me.
All right, fair enough.
Like, I mean, they I think should project very similarly. I obviously haven't updated anything, but I think they should project pretty similarly. Like, I think you're likely to get 28 to 30 minutes from White. If he plays well, he can certainly play more, and you're likely to get mid-20s from Pritchard. I really would just prefer to play whichever one is getting less ownership, which, given that Pritchard's more expensive, probably will be Pritchard.
Yeah, and then over on DraftKings, a little bit different of a scenario here because Derek White is more expensive than Peyton Pritchard, but once again, they're very close in salary. $5,400 for Derek White, $5,000 on Peyton Pritchard. At least prior to this news, they were projected for very similar ownership, 6% for Derek White, 5% for Peyton Pritchard. That is about to change significantly, and that's what Lofty and Josh, they've got all of Live Before Lock to talk about, which is nice. They get to do a different show than us, so they've got a little bit of different talking points. They're going to have updated ownership. All the more reason you guys should stick around after Adam and I are done to listen to everything that Lofty and Josh have to say about it. But $5,400 is the price on Derek White on DK, $5,000 on Peyton Pritchard. So I hear what you said about FanDuel, and I know you're going to have the same answer on DraftKings. So just to mix it up a little bit, if people are building a cash game lineup and they're looking for a source of value and they're trying to figure out Derek White, what was that?
I said in cash, whichever one starts.
Okay. I assume it's going to be Derek White who starts. He's been the guy who started all postseason.
Yeah, that's my assumption as well. Yeah, that's basically my answer. Like whichever one starts, I like more in cash. In tournaments, I assume whichever one starts is going to be disproportionately more popular than the one that comes off the bench. And if that's the case, I like the one coming off the bench.
Yeah, I think that totally makes sense. I assume we're going to get that starting lineup in short order. I'm also almost positive it's going to be Derek White because we've seen him start on numerous occasions now without Marcus Smart. So that's what I assume. Derek White starts. Peyton Pritchard comes off the bench. It does not guarantee that Derek White gets more playing time than Peyton Pritchard, though, because if I'm not mistaken, game one of the series when Smart was out, Pritchard ended up playing more in that game, didn't he?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, let me pull up the box score. So game one, this is Miami Heat win over the Boston Celtics. There was no Marcus Smart. There was no Al Horford. Derek White started and played 29 minutes. Peyton Pritchard came off the bench and played 30. So it was relatively similar, but I think that in terms of playing time, Derek White a little bit safer, assuming he starts. But I agree with you. If Peyton Pritchard ends up being way under-owned or way lower-owned than Derek White, that would make for a good tournament pivot there. A couple minutes left, so I just want to ask you, it's really not interesting to talk about the MVP play as much on FanDuel. You're playing Tatum or Butler. If you want to take shots on Bam Adebayo or Jalen Brown, go for it, go ahead. But it's hard to really differentiate at the MVP spot because of the way the salary structure works. You just play whoever's going to score the most points. But talking about the captain spot over on DraftKings, who are the guys that you would be prioritizing the most in tournaments?
So we got Boston's starting lineup. Derek White, Jalen Brown, Tatum, Horford, Robert Williams is starting. At captain, I think Tatum. If you need to save money, Jalen Brown. I mean, they're both the two most popular guys as well. I think that makes sense. I like Bam at captain. If you wanted to go cheaper, I like PJ Tucker at 4,200 for captain.
Any consideration for Derek White or Peyton Pritchard now that we have Mark? Fine too. All right, let me refresh ownership, see if we have anything going on there. Any updates? Not yet. So, all right, we are at the end of our show. There's going to be an ownership update coming soon. Josh and Loughran are going to have you guys covered on NBA Live Before Lock. So do not go anywhere. Stick around to watch them. But before we leave, like the video, subscribe to the channel. I don't want to hear Josh or Loughran telling me that they're responsible for all the likes on the videos. So we're not going to know the subscription numbers, but I don't want them to tell me that they're responsible for all the subscriptions either. So like the video now and subscribe so we can get credit for it. Other than that, guys, good luck. Stick around. Watch Josh and Loughran next.
What's up, everybody? Ben Razzie here for Odd Chopper, bringing you my best bet of the day on this Thursday from across the sports world. We've got NBA and NHL playoffs. We've got a ton of games in the baseball world and plenty of potential betting opportunities. Now, before I dive into my pick, before you guys decide whether to tail, whether to fade, whether to stay away, I want to bring up the easiest bet on the board, which is at BetMGM, and it's their free money promo. Bet $10, win $200 if any NBA team hits a three-pointer. We know that's going to happen. If you click the link in the description of this video and you sign up, deposit, and play, you're going to get that $200. You're going to be able to allocate that however you want. Maybe you put it on the pick I give you. Maybe you put it on something else. That's totally up to you, but we want to make sure that you guys are getting in the door there and taking advantage of these free money promos because that is the easiest way to build that bankroll. Okay, I wanted to bet the Celtics. I'm not going to lie, but the unknowns had me stay away. I ended up in the baseball world. Rangers, Astros. I laid the 1.5 with the Houston Astros at home. Straight even money, plus 100. Do I think they win the game? I really do, but I'm not going to lay minus 200. I shopped that around. Couldn't find anything better than that. The plus 100, that's in line with Penny. Good line there, and I do think the Astros have a very good chance here to win comfortably. Now, the Texas Rangers are playing good baseball. There's no doubt about it. They just swept the Angels, but now they hit the road. They've got Glenn Otto on the mound tonight. He gave up 8 earned runs in his last start, hasn't gone more than 5 innings. It hasn't been the best start to the season for him. On the other side of this game, we've got the Houston Astros. They just played 9 straight road games. They get back home. They've got Valdez on the mound. He's had a pretty good start this season, 2.93 ERA, 6 innings, no earned runs in his one start against Texas this year. If you look at that game, they actually lost the game. That was the bullpen's fault, not his fault. He's on the mound. I feel comfortable with that. Astros are just a good team, 24-14 back at home, plus 42 run differential. That's third in the AL. All of these things lean me to them. And then you have the line in line with Penny. -1.5 at home is always a little dangerous, but in a spot like this, healthy run total, I do think that they can get to Otto quickly and win this one going away. Now, if you're looking for more MLB picks, more NHL picks, you want some NBA picks tonight, we have you covered on this very channel. Make sure to like and subscribe and check out all the content contributors. We got some guys on fire here. This is what you want to do. And hit us in the comments. Let me know. Are you guys on Team Astros with me? Or are you going elsewhere? We want to build this up as a community, find some winners together, and hopefully cash some tickets. Again, special thanks to BetMGM, and stay tuned each and every day. I won't have a video tomorrow, but I will be back on the weekend dropping some obscure plays, maybe the lacrosse world, maybe the soccer world. You have to stay tuned and find out. Good luck.
There's no way women touch him on purpose. None. No chance.
Yeah, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Awesemo.com NBA Live Before Lock. I do this one time a week, and I'm glad to be doing it with my pal, Josh Engleman. Wearing the prize picture. That is a nice shirt, too. It's a nice
Not gonna
shirt.
lie, I didn't know I had it on.
Well, you do. And it looks good on you, pal. I'm Dave Loughran at Laffy_D, LOUGHY_D. Follow Josh at Josh Engleman, and happy to have you guys hanging out with us. We're in for a good one today. We just got news. I mean, it's good stuff. At least we have, as Greg put it before the deeper dive ended, that it's going to be two different shows. In some sense, it's going to be two different shows. What's that?
One will be good and the other one wasn't.
Yeah, one will get likes. I think 274, I heard him at the end, the desperation plea for likes. See, it was actually pretty solid on Greg's part. I was almost going to tell you guys to hold off, but 274, Josh, is, and I would assume at least 50 of them were in preparation for us.
Yeah, obviously Adam wasn't doing that read.
Oh, no?
I don't think so.
No. He wasn't doing the contribute to society today or any recently. And El Negro Loco gifting 5 memberships. Appreciate that, man. Shout out to everybody that just got one. Anyway, hit the thumbs up. I mean, we got 1,600 people watching. There's certainly no chance in hell. It's impossible that even half of you, really, a quarter of you, not even a quarter of you have hit that thumbs up. It takes a single second. If you forgot, it's fine, but atone for your sins here. Click out of the chat if you have to. Click back in after you hit the thumbs up. Get us where we need to go. Show us some love so we can get this started the right way. Anything to add there, Josh?
No. Not at all. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. I was trying to get my baseball lineups in.
You were waiting for that one, huh?
It felt good. I'm actually just waiting for my DK sim to run so that we could actually talk about all the changes.
Yeah, a lot of changes. Thanks, Josh of Los Angeles. Appreciate you, man. We got a green check mark. He's one crazy ninja. Speaking of ninja, ever hear of D Antwoord?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
Tim Dillon was talking about them this week. I've actually known about him for a while. I was dating some girl back in the day. It's like, you got to listen to this group. Just a bunch of crazy, the Zeph lifestyle.
Rogan was really into them when like his pod first started.
Who was?
Rogan.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think I learned about him in 2009 and I was fascinated by how absurdly odd they were. I mean, and
yeah.
a lot of people in entertainment are weird on camera and then they're normal. These people are the exact same people off camera.
Yeah. So it seems. I don't have a lot of like experience in South African hip hop, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never been.
I don't think they're particularly good people either.
Well, I mean, who is really?
It's true. It's true. Fascinating characters, though. They really are. Somebody said ninja, and that's the guy's name. He's got the wild tattoos all over and stuff. Pretty fresh on his neck. Yeah.
I don't have that one, but we'll figure out what I do have soon enough.
Josh will have that tattoo by the finals, by the time the finals end, at least. Hopefully by the beginning of them.
Yeah, I'm not
Hopefully
excited.
by the beginning.
Anyway, I'm not excited for it at all.
You'll be fine. We're almost at 400 likes, so appreciate you guys. 1,600 people watching. Subscribe to the channel, and if you want to become a member too, hit that join down below. Get the free super chats each month, the custom emojis, the sweet badges. It's all about the badges too. I mean, just straight inclusivity here. And we'll always prioritize your questions and comments along with our premium Discord members. Kid Catastrophe. Have I talked about them before? I didn't know I've ever talked about them on a show, but we've done so many shows now that I forget what I talk about.
I have no idea what I've ever said on anything any longer.
No, enough chemicals too, where you forget what you've talked about on top of that.
That's an understatement because the one that I like the most is not great
for long-term memory.
No, not so much. I started telling Katie, like, she'll say something like, oh, you remember blah, blah, blah. I was just like, nah, I offloaded that to the cloud. I don't store that on the phone anymore.
Yeah. No. All right. Last thing here, and then we're going to get into this. And we're hanging out with you till 9:00 Eastern time. So stick around. We're going to have some fun. We're going to talk some bets. We're going to talk some basketball. Alex W., what's the reason behind people clowning Josh about not washing his hands? It is. Yeah, it's a long played joke by now. Marvin, I agree. It is overplayed. It is played out, but it will never die. I don't think.
No. Well, it's not going to change that much, I can tell you.
Yeah. Yeah. And Steve said, you guys got Adam looking like Mac Miller today.
Hopefully not now.
Damn it, dude. Don't. I was going to hold back and you had the fire. Man. All right. But so we have.
What do you want me to do, man? Like, I'm clearly not going to not say anything.
We have Miami.
I'll be honest. I don't like, I never listened to him.
He had some really good stuff, actually, and I'm not into that type of music. He did an unplugged thing. It's called Jordan. What was it called? Where they did it in that tiny little like cafe. You must know. Tiny Desk.
Yeah, NPR.
Yeah, NPR. Yeah, he did the Tiny Desk concert and had a couple just such sick stuff, man. Actually, really good stuff.
Yeah, like I don't have an opinion at all. Like it's not that I was just like, oh, this isn't for me. I just never went forward with it. What's up?
You, man. It's just
wait, did I say something else now? I don't even know.
It's
sometimes I don't even notice.
The first thing you said, I just can't get past it. So Jimmy Butler, Kyle Lowry, Max Strus, all of them are expected to play. Tyler Hero has been ruled out. Marcus Smart. I said it this morning. I was not confident this guy was going to play at all. When you're just because you come, just because you come back in a game where you hurt your ankle doesn't mean that you're going to make it a couple days later. Oftentimes it just gets worse. The swelling gets worse. You know what I mean? You have adrenaline pumping. You're in it. You can play and you're probably just making it worse while you're out there. But Ime Udoka said after the game, he's got a pretty bad sprain. And when you hear, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play in game 5 either.
With this quick turnover, it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world if it's really bad. We see high ankle sprains be really, really problematic. So all bets are off as far as I'm concerned. And it sucks because they are definitely better with him on the floor than Peyton Pritchard or Derek White or whatever else slop we're going to get filling in for it. I have my sim done, by the way, so I could at least talk about DK.
Sweet. Yeah. Kid Kateshi, the caucasity is stronger than I thought. What does that mean? That I'm white?
You are white on white today.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the only stuff I ever listened to from Mac Miller, plus what does that have to do? That's an absurd statement. Was it what? Jordan, talk to me then. Don't mute yourself. Yeah, but I'm saying there's a lot of non-white people that like his music. No?
Yeah.
Mac Miller? I would think so.
I think so.
My favorite rapper is a white guy though, and it's not Eminem. So there's that. And it's not Mac Miller.
Mine is, and it is.
Who? Eminem?
Yeah.
Yeah. Vinny Paz, baby. So good. So good.
Sure.
Philly guy.
I mean, favorite is fully acceptable as that.
Yeah, it is. He's in my opinion, he's one of the him and Big L, two most underrated, like just ever. But we don't have time to get into that. Although El Negro Loco, Laffy, what's your go-to music? Everything. I don't listen to country music. I don't listen to, but I'll listen to blues. When I work out, I listen to legit, Meshuggah, straight metal. If you want to call it, they're a genre of their own. I listen to anything, Josh, hip hop, rock. I listen to some indie rock. I listen to anything. What about you? What's your go-to? I've always wondered that.
Like 99% hip hop.
Okay. See, like, give me some good 90s rock too. I mean, 90s rock is where it was at. That was some good, really? Oh,
Nah.
Yeah. I listen to it all. I listen to
like from time to time, stuff that I would definitely listen to in the 90s is still a part, but like that was never my driver. It's always been hip hop from
Fair
the jump.
enough. But I mean, I do Pink Floyd, do Leonard Skinner.
I dip my toe into those waters too with an assist.
Box Cutter Pazzi. That's right. I'll never look. Yeah, he's got 100 nicknames. 90s grunge. Yeah, dude, 90s music was the shit. 90s hip hop was the best too.
No complaints.
90s music. Just 90s in general. Take me back, man. Take me back to the 90s. All right. We should probably get back to the show, but that's
take me back to the 90s if I could have no responsibilities. I'd rather live now as me than be 37-year-old me in the 90s.
Yeah, for sure. But it was a good time. Big Sus says Vinny Paz Italian. Yeah, he's Sicilian, but isn't that white? Like, do we not consider that white?
I don't know. I just consider their pizza to be delicious.
Well, that too. All right, let's keep going here. Or should I say, let's get started?
I was just going to say, I don't think we can keep going. We haven't gone anywhere yet.
But at the same time, everyone likes music, right?
I don't know. Probably not.
Nah. Fear Money Entertainment says, Cool G Rap, greatest lyricist ever. He did some stuff with Big L too. Check some of that stuff out. That was good. All right. Oh, Lucas Morales, which one is the link for $10 to 200? I'm happy to help you. Jordan's going to put it in the chat right now, and then we're going to get started. Josh, you knew this. I'll tell you right now. Sure. But at BetMGM, all you have to do is deposit $10 and it turns into $200. That's it.
Do that. Big news for me. Evidently, maybe sports betting by the time football comes around.
Oh, dude.
At which point I could take advantage of that fantastic BetMGM offer that you speak of.
Wait, in North Carolina, they might have it by football season? Oh,
yeah. I guess I could say this out loud. I saw Levitan tweet it earlier.
Beautiful. I tell people all the time, even if you don't like basketball, use this because then you can just have yourself set up nicely for football season. Like, it's hard to make money betting sports. All you have to do is sign up using the link in the description or the one, Jordan, put it in chat one more time. Or the one in chat. Just click the link, sign up, deposit $10. That's it. You can deposit more if you want, but $10, bet either team to win tonight. if they, I don't even know why I say this, but if they score 22 plus points, the 10 turns into 200. It's just, they will. So just bet either team, put $10 on either team to win. And it's $200, boom, when the bet settles. Like, dude, these sites want your business. Even if you're not big into sports betting, like it's still 10 into 200. That's the thing. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't like it.
No. You don't, like, I can give that offer to Katie and it still works.
Exactly. Right. It doesn't matter. If someone gives you free $190, take advantage of it. So use a link, sign up, deposit $10, put that on either team to win. And bam, 10 into 200. Use it on whatever the hell you want over at BetMGM. So, yeah, I'm looking at all of these injuries. How worried are you about, and I think I know what your answer is going to be, but I have to ask you anyway, because I think it is somewhat of a nuanced conversation. How worried, and thanks guys for hanging out with us for the first 12 minutes there as we shot the shit. It's fun stuff.
Yeah.
How worried are you about Butler's knee inflammation that held him out of the entire second half in game 3?
Not worried. I don't know how to quantify it, so it's not something that I'm worried about.
I can't either, but it is unique in that can this inflammation return, or are there strong mitigation processes that take place pregame? But I would assume they're already doing that pregame, right? I can't imagine this is something brand new.
Yeah, surely he's gotten 36 hours of aggressive treatment in all forms and facets. Look, there's nothing I can do about it, so I just pretend like it doesn't exist.
You still have to project him for his normal minutes. You can't, I'm a little bit more concerned than you are, but it doesn't mean it's not actionable.
Right. My concern is irrelevant.
Right. It's not, you can't do
even if I had
it.
concern, I have the same number in FC that I would otherwise.
Yep. Jordan Lockhart making it rain, just gifted another 20 free memberships. I'm not kidding, Josh. I think he's up to 200 now since we started this like 5 days ago.
Much obliged on that one, man.
Just crushing it, man. And he had a huge win. I'm sure that's in our Hall of Fame segment later. But Matt, I think it was 150. What's up? Oh, we already did that for Deeper Dive. Jordan, you can't make faces. Okay, you can't make faces and say stuff on mute. You can't. You got to talk to me.
At least get subtitles, dude.
He's disgusted, and I'm just watching it. Just unmute. Talk to me, man. I told you if I'm wrong about something. Plus, I'm used to doing the deeper dive. But anyway, congrats, Jordan.
Carrying
Lockhart.
the deeper dive.
Yeah, carrying the deeper dive. Well, he's just been on another mega heater. So yeah, it's been awesome. And Anthony, yeah, the giveaways are amazing especially when the community's doing the giveaways. I gave away 10 of them, 10 or 20 of them the other day. I can't remember what it was, but Jordan Lockhart's carrying the load in chat, and I love it. Jason Tatum, I want to ask you about him too. And we're going to get granular here because we have some injury news as well. But what my wife heard a conversation about talking about music. And she said, "Mbop." Dude, I got into the car the other day and she legit had Mbop in the car.
So, I'll mess with some Mbop, but you got to rock with the Hanson Penny and Me. That's the track.
Wait, you know other Hanson songs than Mbop?
Yo, Penny and Me is a banger, man. You got to understand, after they became like a child pop act,
right?
They're three guys that are really talented singers and playing the acoustic guitar.
Perform?
As far as I know, yeah.
Have you been?
This could be wrong now, but I mean, like Penny and Me was a couple years after.
Would you go to a concert?
I mean, I don't ever go to concerts, so my answer
if they were
is
around and someone's like, "Hey, I'm going." Katie's like, "Hey, I'm going. You want to go?"
No, I've said no to like things I'd want to see.
Okay.
Like I'm not a huge like live music guy.
Yeah, I hear you. We put it on for our daughter, and she was grooving to it. Right, like we just threw it on the Alexa. And then I get in the car and I was like, "Oh, you had this on for Jordan when you took her to daycare today." And then I thought, no, I took her to daycare today. So she was just rocking out, dude. Nice sunny day with the sunroof open to a little Mbop. I'll tell her that you approve.
Tell her to check out Penny and Me.
Penny
just an acoustic. Me? Yeah.
All right.
Mostly acoustic track.
All right. Do you think Jason Tatum, so he has a right cervical nerve impingement. This is another one.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yes. Everyone knows about that. I can't take anything away from this because apparently this has been something he's been dealing with anyway. So I don't look at last game as anything that really should be all that concerning. He just had a bad game.
I'm in the same boat with Tatum as I am for Butler. I'm projecting him moving forward. I have no idea. Like, he didn't look right when he came back in. There's again nothing that I can do about that at this point. But I feel better about Tatum than I do about Jimmy Butler.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that. Now, with the guys that are out today, Tyler Hero and Marcus Smart, I say we just break these situations down first.
I'm in.
Yeah. All right. And can we get the 500? We're 455. We're cruising here. Right? We're 20 minutes in, just crushing. Yeah.
If you're a big fan of Hanson, hit that thumbs up. Went up by 1. It was me. I liked it. Penny and Me is in my Hall of Fame playlist on Spotify. That's how much I like that song.
Wow. I'm gonna have to listen and report back.
You are not going to be like, hey man, I went back and listened to that. Loved it.
The best is Josh is like 99% hip hop is what I listen to.
It's true. I mean, it's still true.
We saw Derek White. We're going just in and out of consciousness here. We saw Derek White. This is par for the course. Start the games that Marcus Smart has missed. Can I be frank here with you? Can I be blunt? This guy.
I would love you to be.
This guy stinks. I'm kidding, but he has stunk. He has not been good in the postseason. Okay.
No,
he has. Like, I wouldn't say Tyler Hero stinks because he's been bad in the postseason. He's a good player. He's a great bench player, and I'd say the same for Derek White, but he has not been good. And we've seen now multiple times that he has started for Marcus Smart, and he has played, 28 and 29 minutes? Yeah, 28 and 29 minutes. He hasn't cracked that 30-minute mark, even though a lot of times you're projecting him for 35. And some reasons for that is he's just been wildly inefficient as a shooter. His defense has struggled, but also, there were games where Peyton Pritchard looked good and got additional run, like 30 minutes in game 1 against Miami with Marcus Smart out. So this is kind of a tricky situation.
I hate it. I just wanted to play Marcus Smart. Well, I just wanted Marcus Smart to be in and have less question marks. I think we already have enough question marks about this slate. I think I didn't want to go any further, but yet here we are. I went to 28 minutes on Derek White. I went to 26 minutes on Peyton Pritchard. I have absolutely no confidence in either of those two numbers. That could break either direction. I don't think it would be crazy if Tatum, Brown, Horford, Williams became a thing that they tried doing, and which, again, spacing is tricky in that spot, but you've still got a 4-out system that you could run with Robert Williams. I just assume that you still get that sort of run out of White and Pritchard. There's the Neesmith thing, which I don't think is really a thing for today, but he's the flat minimum, so it's mildly worth a look. He showed up in like 1% of my sims, so we have his ownership a little bit higher than that. It's not something I'm looking at right now. As I look at the information that came out of my sims, at least based on where we have the ownership, and I'm going to just double check right now to see if we still have it. All right, 15 minutes. I believe what I have is the last update. Yes, truth. So I like Derek White and Peyton Pritchard more than our current ownership shows. So great. Good luck breaking that one down. I like them both.
Yeah. Would you play them together?
I mean, yeah, because I don't think there's anything that I would ever do in a showdown scenario where it should be restricted. But like, obviously they are negatively correlated.
They're definitely negatively correlated, but in the same breath, it doesn't mean that they can't still get there. Yeah. Is there a high likelihood that they both get there? Probably. The problem I have, and you'll probably agree with me here, is that if Derek White is playing well, finally, he probably does play like 35 minutes. That's the issue. He's played.
They want Derek White to be out there a lot.
Exactly. But
yeah,
Udoka can't really leave a guy out there when he's been in some of these games without Smart, a liability. And I don't even think I'm saying anything crazy. He's not been good. No.
0.7 fantasy points per minute or something along those lines. I mean, that's dreadful. And he's like normally a 0.9 guy.
Yeah. And it's just wildly inefficient too. The 1 for 4 from the field, and in the other game, remember the 0 for 6 game against Milwaukee? Fortunately, they still got a convincing win there. But yeah, I think this is one of the trickiest spots for sure. With Marcus Smart out, though, how does it impact the rest of the team from a facilitating standpoint? Because we know damn well for a large stretches of this game, Derek White is just going to stand around.
Yeah, it's obviously a benefit to Tatum and Brown and Horford to a degree from a playmaking standpoint. The problem here is the lack of dribble penetration from Marcus Smart, the lack of him being able to get into the paint, because I don't know if Derek White's going to be that guy. Peyton Pritchard is to an extent, but he's not the same sort of passer because of his size. What you lose out now is that Tatum or Brown initiating from the outside means that they aren't on the outside to take a kick out pass from Smart on the collapse. And I think like you probably get worse shooting looks now for Tatum and Brown because Smart is out. And I think that sort of offsets their increase in facilitation.
If you take Marcus Smart and Dennis Schroeder off the floor this year, Tatum has a 27% assist rate. That's nice for a guy playing 42 minutes per game.
Yeah.
Who else? Okay, Horford is second among guys that Horford's second at 20. Well, Pritchard at 23, but Horford has a 20% assist rate. He's actually not a bad passer for a big man. So I think it definitely benefits him a little bit. You could see one of these games where Horford finishes with, 10, 13 and 5 assists or something like that, and a couple stocks, and he could get you there for sure. Because Horford's price has come down to a point where I like him. I mean, he has some downs. He has a pretty low floor. There's no denying it. There are times where he disappears. Dude played 42 minutes last game, though. Horford.
I'm going to be well over the ownership on Horford.
Are you?
Yeah. At least it's seeming like that. I liked him a lot earlier today. I had assumed Robert Williams was in all day, so I've been pretty neutral there. But I've got Horford coming out of my sim at 68%. We've got him owned at 55 in the aggregate.
How much captain do you have on him?
I still haven't run any lineups yet. I'm just finishing the second part of what I'm doing.
Oh, gotcha.
His captain ownership is pretty neutral for me. I'm a lot more likely to get to him at the flex. And I think a lot of that has to do with some of the lower priced guys that exist on this slate. Now that Caleb Martin's ownership is really interesting to me at this point at 1,400, just because I think he's live to see a couple more minutes than we would have normally expected. It was a little bit higher earlier, and then as we're getting more news, it's sort of bringing him back down. But when it comes to Horford, I'm assuming I'm over the field. That's the way that it looks like it's going to be, and that'll probably happen more at the flex than at the captain spot.
Okay. I actually don't disagree with that because Horford is getting a lot of captain, right? I won't say a lot, but definitely. So here's the way I see it. There are 5 players that are taking up almost all of the captain ownership, right?
Yeah.
Like on the entire slate. There's a few at 2% and 3%, a couple at 4%, but for the most part, Tatum, Butler, Jalen Brown, Bam, and Horford are making up probably 80% of the overall captain ownership tonight on DraftKings.
I can give you the actual literal.
Yeah.
All right. So it's Tatum, Brown, Horford, Butler, and Bam are 75.7% of the ownership account.
Okay. Now that's not like the other day where Curry and Luka and I think 2 other guys were actually 90% of captain's ownership. So it's not crazy for a showdown slate, but
it's weird how both of these series are like complete opposites.
Way
because
different.
Boston, Miami doesn't have this Luka outlier that just like breaks everything. It's just this like flat, everybody sort of looks the same stuff that's going on at the top.
Right. Justifying Al Horford at captain over Tatum is a lot easier than just justifying Brunson over Doncic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And Butler, there's just this. I actually enjoyed talking about this series a little bit more because there's so many different ways you can get it done. Like there's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure. Looney was at the optimal captain the other day, but I told you, man, that dude's still balling.
Of course.
But
I mean, I didn't disagree with that. I just didn't like the price.
Oh, I know. It was him in DFS, and I get it. Like, I totally understood your point. I wasn't even talking about that. I'm just saying in general, Looney is really putting up numbers. But yeah, okay, he can be the optimal captain, and it's possible. But in all likelihood, like Luka Doncic is the one guy that could every day you're thinking he could give you 80 or 70. Yeah. On this slate, Butler's been amazing, but do you really think he's getting 70 every night, 60 plus every night? Probably not. Tatum is kind of hit or miss. And that's the other thing about these guys. Luka's never a flat out miss. A bad game for Luka's 50, 55 fantasy points. A bad game for Tatum is 20. We've seen it in both of these series. A bad game for Butler, probably, mid 30s or something like that, even though he's been spectacular. There's no guy on this team that is going to, at worst, get you 50 plus.
No, not at all. Like, I have Tatum at 51 just as his median, which means, there's a high likelihood that he's in the mid to low 40s.
How do you
think? Good.
Well, okay. So this is a perfect segue. 500 likes, by the way. Appreciate you. Right at that 8 o'clock mark, just doing big things around here. Appreciate the Awesemo fam around this way. And Jordan Lockhart, I mean, this guy's just making everyone a member of soon it's going to be just straight badges across the board. It's going to be beautiful. But it's a good segue into who do we look towards? And this is always, the question we get most, whether it's super chats, whether it's just random questions in Discord, whatever. The question we always get most on Showdowns are, who are some good low-owned captains or value captains that we can consider today?
I always hate these kind of questions. I understand why they're getting prompted. And it's something that we see a lot of just in chat in general, of people asking that kind of question. And the problem is, it's really hard to talk about. It's a significantly more difficult thing to do than even giving dong picks on the baseball show. Because all I'm doing is shouting out guys that are like, oh, well, I think this guy's got a 4% chance to be the optimal captain. Right. I'm going to sound stupid 19 out of every 20 days that we have this sort of exercise. And then I'm like, I got to hope that I hit one. So like, for once, I'm not pointing this out because it's Antoine in chat. It's the perfect example in this story where he was just like, I think Victor Oladipo looks really good as a captain option. And like, he doesn't. But like, no one outside of Tatum, Brown, Horford, Butler, and Bam look like good captain options.
Right.
Like, to say that anybody else other than and they don't even look like good captain options. They're just the best captain options. To look at Victor Oladipo, even in he's got 2% captain ownership. Even if you think the public is like crazy and it should be 4, double the public ownership, that's still like incredibly low. And you look like it's something that if you say it, you're going to be wrong over and over and over and over again. So it's tricky for me because the highest guy that I have at captain that isn't one of the 5 guys we talked about is Robert Williams at
That's
3%.
Exactly what I was going to ask you about. Yeah.
3%. So like, is he the guy that I think is most frequently in the captain spot of everybody else? Yes. Do I have any idea? No.
I get what you're saying. I do think there's a little bit of nuance to it, just in this case of, okay, are there any guys out here that can give you that outlier 40-point game? Now, your answer is going to be, yeah, well, 3 or 4%, whatever their, optimal lineup. Yeah, I get it. I totally get what you're saying. You're not shitting on the question. You're just, the whole process is difficult. Robert Williams, though, is the type of guy that I like in a spot like this because he has that 7 block upside. And if you're saying, why would you throw 7 blocks out there, Laffy? Like, that's a crazy number. Yeah, but you need something like that, or 7 stock. You need something like that usually for one of these guys to be, the optimal captain, right? Like, you need Looney going for 42 or having 22 rebounds. You need something like that to happen. So can they do that in the off chance that it happens? Robert Williams, yeah, I think he probably can. He was great in that game 2 win, even though he only played, or game 1, 28 minutes. He was great in that. The only question I have, though, is he played 28 minutes. He didn't close. And that wasn't because he couldn't. he cramped up and Tice came in. There's no way they wanted to close with Daniel Tice. Robert Williams was playing great. Much better.
No one's ever wanted to close with Tice.
No.
Here, I can give you an actual piece of information here. In the
please.
simulations that I have where Robert Williams showed up in the captain spot, he averaged 38 fantasy points.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
you probably need like 35 at a minimum. Anything north of 38, you're probably feeling great about it. That's a playing, but like the key for him is that he has playing time upside. We don't really have a great feel. He could play anywhere from 18 to 28 minutes. If he gets 28, you could he's probably one of the most likely captain options at that point in time. If he plays 18, he can kind of still get to that like mid 30s mark in the most optimal scenario possible. But
he could.
At 22 minutes of Robert Williams, I think he's super live to hit like 35. It's just, super live means 3%.
And he's also volatile. We don't know what his minutes are going to look like. I mean, I truly have no idea what his minutes are going to look like.
No clue.
What are you projecting him for minutes?
23, 24, 20, 25. I was at 23 earlier. With Smart out, I went up 2 more.
Okay. Fair enough.
Obviously, those two guys shouldn't be like correlated in minutes, but you start to run out of places to they're not playing Luke Cornett.
How many minutes do you think Oladipo gets today?
It's the biggest puzzle for me today, man. I have no idea. I can say this much. I am higher on Duncan Robinson's minutes than the industry, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that we're just not projecting him for any ownership, and I'm making it so that I get more.
Okay.
I think Gabe Vincent, it's sort of been talked about. So with Hero out, I think Gabe Vincent probably sees a couple more minutes. He is unquestionably ahead of Victor Oladipo in the rotation. After that, clearly Oladipo is playing. That's just what's happening. I have no concept if he's going to get a lot more minutes. I don't love the fit of him and Butler on the floor together. It seems weird to me that he would just immediately get a bunch of extra minutes given this current situation. I think we would need Butler out for that. Obviously, Duncan Robinson's skill set from a shooting perspective is what slots in perfectly. You could see sort of Duncan Robinson playing the non-Max Strus minutes and just keeping one elite shooter out on the floor, maybe. I also think Caleb Martin is super live, and he's got the price tag that makes it really interesting. I gave Victor Oladipo 19 minutes. I think I am low in the industry there. I don't have a great feel for it at all. If he played a bunch, it would not surprise me at all, but I think it's easier to go to Duncan Robinson today because of his ownership. If you're playing a larger field GPP, if you're a single entry person in a 1,500 person contest, Duncan Robinson's probably not the guy that you need to go to. I think you could feel a little safer, but to replicate Tyler Hero's production, I think Duncan Robinson is the guy that looks most likely to do that. The fact that he played a first quarter rotation or a first half rotation in the last game and Victor Oladipo didn't is a very interesting piece that I feel like people just ignore, or some people are ignoring at the very least. Does that mean they're going to do it today? I have no idea. But I think that's super relevant. There's a real live chance that Victor Oladipo didn't play a single second in the last game if Butler doesn't get hurt.
That is an interesting concept that our line of thinking that you're going with. So let me get a little bit deeper here, because this is ultimately, this is the type of stuff that we do the shows for. To tell you to play, Williams Tatum or Butler or Bam or even Horford or Jalen Brown a captain, anybody, anybody can do that. It's not helpful.
If you like any one of those guys, that lineup is at that point a good
perfectly
lineup.
Reasonable. Yeah. I mean, sure, we'll talk about that stuff if we have a heavy lean over the one or the other. But what I think is more not only interesting but helpful is, okay, so let's say, so we know that Tyler Hero is out, right? And his minutes have been kind of all over the map, right? I mean, you saw you saw a lot more minutes in the first series and that second series, the first against Atlanta and the second against Philly. Against Boston, you've seen 27, 24. That ended up being a blowout. So you're going to lose minutes. 6 man is always the biggest, takes the biggest hit in the blowout. Yeah. And then 20 minutes where he didn't play the fourth quarter. And it was weird because Spoelstra was like, Yeah, he wasn't officially ruled out, but we kind of wanted to stay with Oladipo. So I don't know if he would have, honestly, I don't know if he would have played anyway the entire fourth quarter. Probably would have played more. But how many minutes are we voiding for Tyler Hero today, and how do they get filled? Is it Oladipo and then you're giving some to Robinson? Is that basically what it comes down to?
Yeah, kind of. And then I gave a slight boost to Vincent's minutes as well. I think and Kayla Martin as well. I think there's just like everybody gets a few is to me the way that I'm going to look at that. And like, I think it's pretty reasonable to think that the reason we didn't see Duncan Robinson again in the second half is because they were smacking Boston. Like, they never trailed again. That's not probably the time that you need to pick somebody out there that they can pick on in a pick and roll. So Victor Oladipo's status, one, as a usage guy when Jimmy Butler is out, makes a ton of sense. And two, you're not putting out Duncan Robinson to hold a lead. And I think that's part of the reason why you didn't see him again then in the second half. Now that we've evacuated Tyler Hero's minutes, I think that you can get by with, 8 to 12 minutes of Duncan Robinson. Oh, look, they're picking on Tyler Hero every time down the floor. He's getting beat like a drum. They can do that to Duncan Robinson too.
For sure. Here's one spot where I disagree a little bit.
Hit me.
I don't even know if I disagree with you because there might be two different arguments, but the one area where I could see Oladipo being a viable captain is if you're talking large field tournaments. I mean, you have a 56,000 entry contest on DraftKings today, or 46,000 entries.
Yeah.
You already have no Tyler Hero. On a main slate with multiple games, you're never looking at things like this because it's totally unnecessary. But in the event that Butler isn't right and ends up leaving this game, even if it is halfway through it, and Tyler Hero's already out, then you're not just seeing a minutes bump, but also a considerable usage bump for Victor Oladipo, who, when he's on the floor with Jimmy Butler all season long, Victor Oladipo had a usage rate of 23%. It would go significantly higher than that. So that's the one way I could see it getting done. It's a low probability play for sure, but that's often the case if you're trying to win a huge tournament and not chop it with 10,000 people.
I don't have a disagreement with you there. Like, there's a built-in benefit to Oladipo that Butler isn't healthy. That is a scenario where if Jimmy Butler goes down, we know who's getting those minutes now. That's not up for debate any longer. We've figured out that Victor Oladipo is going to get that playing time.
Right. So we don't have
that mechanism. I totally agree with.
Ben Rasa always has the philosophy of, I don't want to run plays where I need to get multiple things right for it to work. Right. Like if this guy does go down, you need that to happen. But then you also have to guarantee, with football, it happens all the time. Like, then you have to guarantee that this guy is the primary beneficiary. We know that Oladipo would be after we saw last game. So Now it's just a one piece of the puzzle. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Kid Catastrophe, Laffy, did you see the Northman movie? No, I want to see that badly. That's Sarsgaard or whatever, Jamie from Game of Thrones. You'd probably like that. You like Viking stuff, Josh? There's Viking movies.
I've never seen one. I don't think so, but I don't know if that means that I don't.
You'd probably like it.
I don't know.
Not a Viking movie, but did you ever, I know I told you guys to watch this chat too. Did you see The King on Netflix yet?
No.
Oh, Timothy Chalamet.
It's not about LeBron James.
No.
The king of the NBA.
No, it's awesome. Just please watch it when you have time. You 100% guarantee you will love it. I stand behind my recommendations when it comes to flicks, and It is sick, man. Anyone who has said it's not good, I can chat. Jordan, just ban them. Just get rid of them. I mean, they don't belong here. They don't deserve to be here. But no one will say that because they know it's awesome.
Obviously, I would say that.
You
mean no one would say that about that movie? Not no one would say that about banning people in chat.
Correct.
Gotcha.
You know what else is awesome though?
Me?
Yes. But also the fact that you can get 50% off an entire month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. 50% off the whole month. Not a week, not 7 days, not 2 weeks. Entire month. All you have to use, is it Jordan? NBA, LBL? Yeah. Live. That's okay. We're both wrong. I'm told you used to the deeper dive. NBA.
I've done this read already too.
You said that with confidence too.
I was confident that's what it was.
NBA Live. All one word, all caps. Every single tool, every sport. There's no strings attached here. It's not that nonsense where you do it and you're like, oh, I only have access to half of the tools and half of the sports. No, every sport. And by every sport, I don't just mean like the big four. I mean, every niche sport you can think of, everything. And the best part, you don't even have to know the sports well. That's the whole purpose of the ownership and the player projections. I always call the other ones simulation tools, Josh. That's kind of what they are, right? Like the top golfer tool, top driver tool, and all that stuff.
Yep.
That's what they are. Yeah.
Yep.
And can you, real quick, for anyone wondering, and I don't want to take up too much time, but can you explain how they work? Because most people say those are our most valuable tools when it comes to everything we have.
I mean, I can sort of. I can give basketball as the best example. But what you're trying to do is play the slate infinite amount of times. Now, it's not going to actually be infinite. There's some sort of set amount of simulations that we are running. So for basketball, it's really easy because for the most part, NBA production is normally distributed. And if you don't know what that is, we're not going to be able to continue this on.
We don't have that much time.
But, you know, if you know someone scores 30 fantasy points and their standard deviation is 10, you can very reliably randomize those numbers and get a unique spot for that guy. So sometimes it's 25, sometimes it's 35, and then 28, and then 34. And you do that over and over and over again with every single guy. And you tally up those results for each single spot that you do it. So then you can find out, okay, so-and-so person over 10,000 sims shows up as the highest possible scorer 15% of the time. And when he does that, he scores this many more fantasy points than his production. It's super simple to do from an NBA perspective, and it gives you pretty granular data. You're just sort of making that assumption based on what your projections are. But we have this for MMA fights, same situation, slightly different distributions, but same principle. We've got it for baseball as top stack tool, who's going to be the highest scorer on a probability basis. Top pitchers tool, who's going to be the top scorer. Golf, who's going to be, if you're a top 6 overall scorer, what are those odds? You can do it for everything. You just sort of know the distributions. Now, if you're just subscribing at Awesemo.com, you don't have to know the distributions. You can just take all of this work that gets done, immediately show it up at Awesemo.com and save yourself a significant amount of time.
Yeah, well put. I always wanted to get into that because when I say the simulation tools, people are like, what does that mean? But it's super valuable. Anyway, NBA Live, all one word, all caps, use it at checkout. 50% off the whole month. That's it's like $45 discount.
Yeah.
Get every sport, every tool. Yeah. And you can get the Fantasy Cruncher add-on as well. Do you like Kyle? Oh, Greg with a $20 super chat. Didn't even say anything. Thanks, man. If you have any questions, hit me up. We'll definitely hit that. Do you like Kyle Lowry today? I'm on the over 4.5 assists for what it's worth. Without Tyler Hero, he actually has a 34% assist rate, and I think you get about 30 minutes from him today. But what about from a DFS standpoint?
I'm a bit under the field, nothing too crazy, but I am a little bit lighter. I don't really have much to add from Lowry. I gave him 32 minutes, so it's not. I don't think that I'm being crazy there, but his rates just aren't really there. He doesn't look particularly healthy. Not that he usually looks like he's ultra fit to begin with, but he feels slightly less fit than normal. But I think, look, even at 32 minutes, which he did not play in the first game back, I don't necessarily know if he's just going to soak up a bunch of extra time. I'm probably at his upper bounds of minutes, and I'm still not getting there. So right now I have 20% Kyle Lowry. We've got him projected for 31%. So I am a little bit lighter on Lowry. Certainly if like Jimmy Butler has to leave or something, he could do a little bit more, but he's just a guy to me today.
Okay. Anybody we haven't talked about yet? Oh, and we're sticking around 30 minutes after. Like, you guys better hang with us. I mean, we're going to have some fun. We are going to have a absolute blast getting some basketball talk in. I'll be throwing the game on and when it starts and whatever else. Here's the thing. When we go 30 minutes after lock, even during the live before, you never know what's going to be discussed.
No.
If nothing else, stick around for that. We have fun, right, Jordan? We have fun. As Jordan's face is just, his mouth is agape, wondering what's going to get this show canceled at any time. You've noticed that though, right? The whole time he just sits there kind of like this, or I need just producer cam the whole 30 minutes.
He needs to realize that he doesn't have to worry about anything.
No, he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, we just say he asked us if we would discuss it.
Yeah.
Anybody we haven't talked about that stands out as either a great utility play, a relatively decent captain play. And I'll preface this with all of these rotations are so condensed now. And now you're losing Tyler Hero and you're losing Marcus Smart that opens things up, but it doesn't mean you're going to see a much bigger rotation.
I have my exposures. I could walk my way through those with 9 minutes to go. I am basically fading PJ Tucker. I am basically fading Max Strus. I think that's a price thing. 6,800 just feels a little healthy there. I am quite a bit over the field on Al Horford, as I expected from the previous conversation. But this will be the two biggest pieces that we're going to get to. And I don't necessarily feel comfortable about both, but in the aggregate, I'm happy to have them the way that they are set up. In larger field stuff, I am playing quite a bit of Peyton Pritchard and Derek White at captain. Pritchard at 5K, Derek White at 5,400. They are the guys that I'm sort of taking the biggest stands on above the field. That is the way that I am using to get different in comparison to where we have current ownership. I am very heavy on Jason Tatum, well over the field in the aggregate, at the utility spot, basically neutral at the captain spot. And then I am basically not playing Victor Oladipo. So we'll see where that goes. Not comfortable with it, but to me, it's just one of those things where you need to take that stand. I do have some Duncan Robinson, not as much as I had earlier. So now that I don't have as much as I had earlier, I'm really confident that he plays and shoots the lights out.
25 minutes for Robinson today. It's coming.
Yeah.
We don't actually think that, but
no. I gave him 13. I am unquestionably the highest that I've seen in the industry.
But you also inflate, you doctored that a little bit so you could maybe get a little bit of him. You don't necessarily think he's getting 13 minutes.
No, but I certainly think that he can.
If he came out and started shooting, it's really all it takes. That's the thing. If Robinson came out and knocked down 3 threes in like a 6-minute stint that he was supposed to only get 6 minutes in the first quarter or first half, you're staying out there. If you're running, 3-point shooting is so unpredictable. Like, yes, over the course of a season, players will prove if they're better or worse at 3-point shooting. But on a game-to-game basis, even a stretch of games, we've seen Tyler Hero, it's wildly unpredictable.
Yes, very, 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 very unpredictable.
SMCG's $10 super chat. Thanks, man. I'll buy the Awesemo thing, but does it work fine on my phone? Also, can I set up a group of players and have the website give me every option possible with the players that I like? Well, Fantasy Cruncher add-on will do that. And yeah, it works on the phone. We're working to optimize that too, to make it better on your phone. But no doubt these tools are always going to be better if you're on a computer or a laptop or something. Like even if we had a pristine app, it's always going to be just better for you using them on your computer.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions coming in here?
And I don't think anybody will be surprised, but my 5 most exposed players pretty clearly: Tatum, Horford, Bam, Butler, Brown. So
okay, so the top 5 owned players as well.
Yeah, but Pritchard, White, and Duncan Robinson are probably the guys that I'm over on that are rotating through my lineups with the big names, and then Tucker, Oladipo, Strus are the guys that I'm pretty light on.
Man, Prize Picks hangs some soft lines sometimes, Josh. And
Yes,
I say that in a good way. They'll hang some lines that can be absolutely taken advantage of, for sure. Yeah. Looking at them now, just comparing them to other books, there are some that are considerably different than some of these other books. Wow.
Give me one.
Okay. All right. So hold on one second. So
okay, don't give me one.
Well, no, it just my computer just froze up on me.
Mm-hmm.
It happens all the time, right? When I'm about to do something. Okay, so how many threes do you have Jason Tatum making today?
3.3.
3.3. All right. How many do you have Al Horford making?
1.6.
All right. So with a lot of these, you're not getting the hook. And more importantly, you're not getting any juice. So some of them, particularly like rebounds and assists, can look very similar, but they actually aren't similar, because you could have one that's the exact same line, except it's juiced to minus 170 somewhere else. Like Kyle Lowry assists is the same, except it's juiced minus 160 on other sites. There's a lot of them out there. You get a free month of, are we still doing the free month of Awesemo, Jordan? I don't think we are. I think we still have $100 first match deposit bonus over at Prize Picks. Use the promo code Awesemo, AWESEMO, when you sign up. You're building lineups with props. There's no juice on either side. It's just the over, the under. We talk about it with football season. There's a huge edge when it comes to touchdowns specifically, like Derrick Henry over half a touchdown. Yes or no? Usually it's minus 300 for him or Jonathan Taylor. But you're just building lineups, 3 or 2, 3, 4, or 5. If you hit 5 of 5, you 10x your money. Unlike traditional props, you still 2x it if you hit 4 of 4. And you can click the link in the video description. Go to PrizePicks.com, download the app, PrizePicks on the App Store, Google Play, however you want to do it. And we have a free PrizePicks tool. So check all of that out. Use the promo code Awesemo for $100 first match deposit bonus as well. But you know what I was wondering, how many assists do you have Peyton Pritchard at today?
The rate this is going, probably quite a bit more than everybody else. Just given my exposure. Give me 1 second, because I was pasting something else in. I wanted to that we could talk about, but we might get to lock and by the time that happens. I have Peyton Pritchard at 3.4 assists.
Okay. 3.4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have been 3.5 on Prize Picks. That looked like an under to me. I mean, it's very close. You're at 3.4, but that looked like an under to me. I don't know how much facilitating he's going to be doing. And you have props for tomorrow's games as well. Derek White's at 3. I will say though, I honestly do like Al Horford over 3 assists with Marcus Smart out. And I'm assuming you're projecting him close to that, understandably so. But just considering he played 42 minutes last game, I mean, huge minutes. Yeah, he only had 3 assists, but Marcus Smart was in that game. Marcus Smart played in game 2 as well. Him and Horford both missed game 1. But Al Horford is just one of those guys that can shoulder a little bit more of an additional load facilitating. I like over 3 assists on Horford today.
I don't have an issue with it.
What do you have?
Horford's
right around there.
3.8.
Oh, so I mean that's solid. Yeah.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit.
Yeah. I'm telling you, there's some good lines out there that you're going to find. You just have to search around. The Prize Picks tool is free. We got less than a minute to go until lock. But there's a lot of people invested in Oladipo today. This could be fun. Hang out after the show. Josh and I are hanging for another 30 minutes here. Before we get into it, to the after show here, and shout out to Jordan for hanging with us for an additional half hour. We didn't talk much about Bam, but I also think there's just a lot of it's Bam Adebayo. There's not much to say about him. He's coming off a huge game. He was playing well before Jimmy went down, but I don't think it hurt that Butler missed half of that game.
No,
I'd say temper expectations, but also his price point is very fair. It's a very reasonable price point.
He's in 80% of my lineups right now. So
he's at 80%.
Yeah. Most of that is at utility. I'm under the field at captain. But I can say that he is. Where'd that tab go? Where the hell did that tab go?
Sure.
Where do I have that? Well, I lost whatever I was going to say. I have a table of all of my optimal lineups and like what comes up most frequently. Oh, I'm in the wrong workbook. Figured it out. Bam Adebayo is the captain in my optimal, but I don't have him as much at captain because the ownership is quite high in Bam captain lineups.
Okay.
But
Marlon Alexander.
Bam, Tatum, Horford, Brown, Pritchard, White is the lineup that showed up most frequently in my Sims, 2.5% of the time. Bam and a 5-man Celtics stack.
Right. So I kind of like that though, because you're captaining the opposing team. The one-off is a captain from the opposing team.
Yeah.
So let's just say, and I love that particularly with Jimmy Butler, but I think it's fine with Bam too, especially if Jimmy actually isn't at full strength, which is possible. But I love it with, captaining a top guy from the opposing team, because if they go crazy, we saw Butler do it against Philly, right? Where he had 46% of their points in one game and then dropped 40 the next, while the rest of the team fell flat and they got smoked in both of those. It's very possible that, you lose this game, but one guy from your one-off, say Bam or Jimmy, absolutely goes nuts. Very possible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. What's my best Butler lineup? Butler captain lineup. I got 3 different ones that are basically the same.
Still got 1,200 people with us. Hit that thumbs up. We got 37 to 600. 600 would be a strong number. And considering we've only been live for an hour now.
All 3 of my best Butler captain lineups also have Tatum.
Okay. All right. Mark Curry, sneaky feeling Lowry's going to have a good game, double-digit points, assists. Honestly, Mark, I don't think that's crazy at all. Lowry has not played great. He's clearly not at full strength, but I don't think it's nuts to assume that Lowry could have a 12-10 game or something like that. Get the double-double bonus. I don't hate it. I like over 4.5 assists today. And it might sound nuts, but not nuts, but Tyler Hero being out does actually help Lowry. His assist rate goes up 6% over 1,300 minutes with Tyler Hero off the floor this season. So he does see an assist bump. I don't think he plays more than 30, but if you get 30 from Lowry at a very reasonable price point, he's not overpriced. He's fine. What's he, 6,600 or something? Yeah, 6,600.
In my Sims, his average score when he's in the utility spot is 32.5.
But that's a good score.
Yeah. I mean, if he gets 32.5, you're going to need him. You can probably get by. You can have Lowry in a lineup that is an optimal lineup with probably like 28, 29 as a downside. Yeah.
I think
it's
so.
Right there.
Honestly, I'd rather have him than Max Strus.
I would rather have him than Max Strus as well. I mean, Max Strus is my second biggest fade or first biggest fade. They both basically have the same amount. You need the same amount out of both of them. Who do you think is going to get more? That's an interesting discussion. One of them's $200 more expensive.
I prefer the guy that does a little bit more ball handling personally. That's what it is. I think the peripherals are more likely for him, for Lowry. And yes, you can look and be like, dude, Strus doubled in back-to-back games against Philly. Those are outlier performances. Plus, it's a totally different matchup. He has 4 and 5 and 4 rebounds, 2 and 2 assists. Scoring against Boston, a better defense as well, better at defending the perimeter, better at defending the 3-point line than Philly was. I mean, all in all, it's just a worse matchup for Max Strus. So give me a guy like Lowry who, could do a little bit more facilitating work. And I think he will. I definitely think he will. So makes Lewis Birch. Laffy prefers guys with good ball handling, eh?
Did I really play a Tice lineup?
Sure. Oh, you got a Tice lineup in there?
I didn't know that I did.
Let me get this game on. What channel is it on? What are we on?
I don't know.
No?
Did I really play a Tice lineup?
We're on ESPN? Okay. Let's get this going. ESPN.
Okay. I really did play a Tice lineup. Good to know.
It is not ESPN. TNT.
Great work, Jordan.
It is not TNT. Really?
No, it's on NBC.
NBC.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just shouting out stuff now.
Oh, that's Jurassic World. ABC. Did we get it? Boom, there we go. All right. All right. ABC.
Easy as 1, 2, 3.
By the way, John Daly's the absolute man.
Did
you? Oh, American dream.
That's not my dream.
What a guy.
I don't. I'm good.
You wouldn't like John Daly. True American hero.
What's to like?
Everything.
What's to like?
Everything.
No.
How do you not like John Daly?
What's to like?
Dude just rips smokes, walking up and down a golf court, eating peanut M&Ms, drinking Coke. I mean, I'm not saying he's the epitome of health, right?
Well, no. If you were saying he was the epitome of health, we would have a real problem here.
But this dude, AFC Angela says that's a tough dream. No, he's a legend. He's a gosh darn legend, Josh, and you should show some respect.
Not a fan.
All right.
Not a fan. He's just, I don't know. He's whatever.
Since we only have one game, can we spend 5 minutes tomorrow on the 2-game slate instead of discussing which Power Ranger would most likely be to survive in Compton without any superpower? You wouldn't get that from me, Chief. I've never seen the Power Rangers. I've also never seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, either of them. Never seen them.
You didn't watch Ninja Turtles as a kid?
Crazy, right?
Yeah, that's way weirder than anything that I say.
We had no TVs in the house. We had no electric. I used an outhouse till I was 13.
Okay, none of this is true.
I churned butter in my garage.
And on that note.
No, but I never saw him, man. I never saw him.
That's wild because, like, we didn't have other shit to do.
Well, what do you mean?
We weren't exactly like inundated with fun shit as children.
Bullshit, dude. That is the most egregious take I've ever heard.
No, because it would be like, oh, you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to spend 5 hours with a magnifying glass burning ants.
No, dude. Okay. Any of you guys born in the late 80s, mid 80s, maybe even early 90s, tell Josh he's insane. We had Bond on GoldenEye, or we had GoldenEye on N64. Fire. I mean,
the Ninja Turtles came out long before that.
But I didn't need it, right? Like I was outside playing hockey. Remember Run the Bases? You ever play Run the Bases? You're a PA guy. No? Okay. Paintball. We used to shoot each other with paintballs and BB guns. I mean,
you weren't playing paintball when you were 7.
Okay, but I was doing other stuff. Water guns. I had like the bazooka water gun, doing that.
Yeah, man, look, we were children. We had nothing but free time.
Yeah, but it's not to say that I wouldn't watch it. I just never got around to it. I don't even know if I've ever seen Lion King, honestly.
Okay, that's just weird, man.
It's weird. It is.
I had the soundtrack on tape.
But I grew up on Sandlot. I remember. Oh, were you a WWF guy back in the day?
I'm a wrestling fan now.
Oh well, that's sorry. That's the. I
went to wrestling 2 months ago.
Okay, so I know you did. So remember the Undertaker, Stone Cold days, Mankind, right?
Yes.
Kane,
yes.
Those days. I had like a CD with all the entrance music to it, and we'd bring it outside.
Of course.
And we'd like each be one of them, go to the trampoline, and we'd beat the shit out of each other. Those were the days. And you'd come out to the Undertaker or Stone Cold, and like my friends were all older and bigger than me, and I would just get tuned up every single day. But it was worth it because you are the fucking Undertaker. You know what I mean?
We would do the same, not onto a trampoline. We had a match around a town once where we would
you
be
can
like
do that.
Hitting each other with garbage cans, and then you like stumble up the street, and then somebody throws you into a bush and everything. It was great, man. Great. Little known fact of that story. We ended up, our fight took us to a church that didn't get used all that frequently. And we did not go in. We did open the door, left. Apparently, right after we were there, someone did go in and like mildly vandalize the church.
Wrong.
Somehow it gets mentioned that we had been there. Gets to my friend's mom. She's a teacher, smart, separates me and her son to get stories from both of us. We're able to tell the same story. No trouble. Worked out perfect.
It wasn't you anyway.
It was not us.
Okay.
But it seemed like it was us.
Right.
But like, obviously now I don't give a shit. If it were me, I'd say it was. We were like, look, this is all we did. She got the same story. She was like, I actually think these little shits are telling the truth.
Yeah, dude, listen, it's good stuff. Those are the days. About to talk about some basketball here.
Sure.
Because there's some good stuff. Yeah, man. Well, we haven't tipped off yet. But Michael said the guy had a trampoline next to his outhouse. But Darth Gator said Manhunt at Night was my neighborhood classic. Hell yeah, dude.
Yep.
We went hard on Manhunt.
Yeah.
I'll tell. You guys appreciate this. I've never told this story on a show before, but so
you tell this story, Jordan. Go to a single so I can hit the head.
Okay, you guys will like this. So I'm like 15 years old. We decide that we're gonna throw a tent outside of my buddy's house. We're all gonna camp out, and we're gonna go pick the girls up from across the neighborhood across the street. And in doing so, we're gonna go pool hop. We had a neighborhood pool, so we're gonna pool hop. All right. So we decide to do this. We're all in the pool. It's like 11 o'clock at night. His parents think that we're still in the tent. An unmarked car pulls up and gets out and tells us all to put our hands up. And Jordan, I haven't told this, right? All right. Unmarked car.
I've never heard this.
Okay. Unmarked car gets up, tells us all to put our hands up, and us just pool hopping, not doing anything crazy. We get up, and I'm spry at the time, and I'm gone. Right? Girls go. We just left them and
Sure.
took off. So my one buddy gets caught. They get caught. They give the names and everything. About 30 minutes later, there were 15 cars patrolling the neighborhood looking for us. Now, I knew this neighborhood better than anyone. I've lived there since I was 3 years old. You're not finding me. They never found me. Never caught me.
Oh, you're fucked now, man.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm sitting there thinking, holy shit, dude. I got 15 squad cars out there looking for me for pool hopping. That makes zero sense at all. Turns out, though, Josh, that someone had just committed an armed burglary in the neighborhood. And they thought it was us.
Oh, well, clearly not you.
The worst part, however, was his parents had the cops come to the door because they found everything out back. And I'll never forget her saying, I'm so angry I can't even see straight. And then started calling her son by his middle name, first and middle name. And to this day, they're still looking for me, but never got caught. One of the greatest moments of my childhood, because I can tell you this much, right? And I think you will agree. I think chat will agree with me on this. When you are able to escape, right? To evade such a heavy police presence, even though we didn't really do anything wrong. What a wonderful feeling to know that you escaped that. I'll never forget. I went back home. I turned on Dumb and Dumber, threw it in the DVD player, and I went to bed. It's good time. Good night.
Where'd you hide?
So we had this huge hill, big sledding hill, and then a wooded area. And we went back into the wooded area. So then when they started coming up, we knew a back way to get out of that. So we were just 2 steps ahead of them. We were watching them was the best part. Like, bird's eye view of the patrol cars. Made it happen. It was a good time.
I miss sledding, man. There aren't hills in Wilmington. Not that I'm going to be going sledding all the time now as a 37-year-old man with no children, but there's no hills. Like everything is flat. Whereas, back in the day, we had like mountains.
Sledding with, in PA, of course, man.
Yeah.
Of course.
We didn't have a lot going on in my area, as you were able to see, but we did have good sledding.
Sledding was awesome.
The hill that my parents live on currently is like a murder hill for children during the winter.
I can't wait to take my daughter sledding when she's old enough. That's going to be because I like that stuff. I just bought these things called magnet tiles. It's like $120 for these. They're tiles that are magnets that you can build stuff out of. It's like, yeah, I kind of bought them for her, but really I bought them for me. And
sure.
Wait till she's older. I'm going to buy some wicked sleds. You know what I mean? With the hand, like the wild stuff. And we're going to have a blast. And that's the cool thing about having a kid, right? I'm learning this because I only have one and she's only 14 months. I'm going to be a kid again very shortly. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to be able to do kid stuff again without needing an excuse for it.
It's true. It's very true. You got to hope No, you just get to do those things. You don't even have to hope anything. It's just awesome. There's a steal by Derek White.
Yo, he's crushing. He has 7 points out of the gate and a steal.
I just saw the steal.
He has 7 points aboard. He has all. Is it still 7-0?
That's what I have. 7-0, 8:45.
Jimmy Butler 0 for 3 to start this game out. 0 for 3.
Let's see. Derek White is 2.5% owned in the captain spot. I have 17.
Damn. So that was one of your stands.
It was one of my stands.
I laid
We'll
6.5 on the Celtics today. This is before the smart news, but laid 6.5 on the Celtics. I thought they over at BetMGM, by the way. Jordan, throw that link in chat one more time. For anybody that hasn't done it yet, even if you don't like sports or you don't think you like sports betting, because I guarantee you will start to like sports betting if it's around you, if it's in your state, deposit $10 using the link in the description or the one that Jordan just put in the chat. Deposit $10 when you sign up. Bet any team to win, like tomorrow, Golden State, Dallas. Bet either team to win. That $10 is turned into $200 when the bet settles. That's all you have to do. You don't need them to win, by the way. They just need to score 22 plus points. So take advantage of free money. $190 free to you by doing nothing at all. You move your fingers a little bit. That's it. All you have to do.
Bam was just the guy that brought the ball up for Miami. Just FYI.
Tell me in chat, by the way, if you guys, because I've been talking.
Miami's 0 for 7 from the field.
I know. Trying to run a show here, but for you guys in chat, how does Butler look? Is he just because you miss shots? Miss shots happen. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. But does he look like he's laboring, or he looks okay?
No, he just took the ball to the rack. He looked fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the big thing is, does he deal with inflammation as the game goes on? Probably not. Like, I'm sure they have mitigation techniques, but is it possible?
He just came to a complete jump stop. Looks
perfectly fine.
Yep.
Okay. Man,
there was no hitch in his giddy up.
I love Robert Williams, man.
Speaking of, I thought he just had like the hugest ass in the history of the world, but whoever else is above him was bent over at the free throw line.
And it was
I think it might have been
him.
Tatum. Yeah. So it was like a double ass. It was just all white because of the shorts. And I was like, what in the world? And then he moved slightly.
Dude, Robert Williams is so good on just toss a little alley-oop up to him. Doesn't even matter. I don't know if you're probably behind me, but
where are you at?
7:16.
Yeah, I'm behind you by 45 seconds.
Okay, so wait till you see this alley-oop. I think actually Horford tosses it up to him. It was sexy though. Manny C, $10 super chat. Great listening. Thank you, gentlemen. Manny, we love you, man. You hang out with us every day. Appreciate you. How sick was that?
That was great.
Robert Williams is a fun player to watch, not as a ball handler, just as he's super. I've always enjoyed watching players that are active, just always moving. Like Kenneth Faried was so fun back when he was semi-good.
I love defense.
Yeah. Swat a shot 20 rows deep. That stuff is fun.
It really is.
Oh, you know what I was watching the other day? Top 10 shattered backboard moments or broken backboard moments in basketball. They had some college
10
stuff.
Shaq highlights.
Yeah. I don't think he ever broke one, but he's pulled them. He's pulled the entire structure down.
Yeah, he broke the stanchion in the back.
It fell
but
on
no,
him.
he shattered like 2 or 3.
Did he?
Yeah, that I could think of.
Okay. I know he's pulled them down. And you know what's odd to me? That the actual hoop is called a goal. It's odd.
Sure.
It's odd. I don't like it.
Hey. Why?
I don't like it. It's a basket. It's not a goal. I mean, it's a field goal.
I mean, it really was a basket.
Yeah, I know.
It is not a basket now.
Right. But I don't like goal. It sounds
I like goal for everything, basically.
Except basketball. Exactly.
No, because that's what it is. It's the goal.
It is true.
It's a field goal in football.
I'm simply telling
you. Soccer, obviously.
Simply telling you, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't even disagree with it. I just don't like the sound of it.
Okay. You love it in hockey, though?
What?
Do you love it in hockey?
Yeah. Well, it's a net. I mean, there's a net on the goal, but you know.
Seems like a semantics thing for you.
You don't say hit the goal, you say hit the net.
I don't say any of that.
No. You don't. I do.
No.
We had a goalie that would always
I like good sports.
We had a goalie that would always scream at us from all the way back then when we missed the net. He'd scream, hit the net. And I hated that because nobody's trying to miss the net. Like you're not intentionally trying to miss the net. So
no.
I don't know. It's just one of those things. Thought I'd bring it up. Thought you might agree. We've been sitting at 599 likes for a long time now. I think this is just intentional.
I see 598, so that might not be a good sign.
Yeah, we definitely lost one and then gained it back.
Oh, I heard you talking about it this morning. I didn't have a mechanism to talk to you. Yes, Liverpool did win yesterday. Manchester City also won, which negated everything. But there was a 15-minute stretch where Manchester City was down 2-0, and Liverpool was the overwhelming favorite to become the Premier League champs. Manchester City scored 3 goals in less than 6 minutes, and then all of a sudden, my hopes were dashed.
So can they still win whatever it is?
They have the Champions League final this Saturday. Okay. That is the tournament of Europe. Every team in Europe that's worth a shit starts in it. They are one of the final 2 remaining.
All right. Yeah, Adam and I were talking about something insane today. I don't even remember what it was.
I don't even remember either, and I listened to the whole show.
Oh, necromancy, bringing people back.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, isn't that having sex with dead people?
Yeah.
12-1 right now? Dude, the Heat have 1 point 6 minutes through halfway through the first quarter. The Heat have 1 point.
That's not great. I'm glad that I believe I have more Boston by like a significant amount.
I mean, anything can happen. It's still very early, but they have 1 point.
Let's see. I have 388% Boston, 212% Miami.
Say it again one more time.
I have 388% Boston, 212 Miami.
Looking good right now.
I can't complain.
No. I mean, no one's really doing much, but outside of White, he has 2 swipes too. So he's got 7 points, a board, 2 steals. Oof.
I mean, and like he's live to get a bunch more because he's one of the best steal and block guys as a guard that exists.
Yeah, and as we said, a guy can be playing poorly. It doesn't mean they're bad. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I haven't been ripping on White that he's been playing poorly, but also we both said that, and I'm not trying to talk out of both sides of my mouth here, but with Showdown, you kind of have to either take stands or understand both sides of it. If Derek White plays well, he probably plays 35 minutes.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, they don't want to go to Peyton Pritchard because he's incredibly terrible defensively. If Derek White can give you anything functional offensively, they don't want to put Peyton Pritchard on the floor.
Right. He went out. Yeah. It's just depending on how bad Derek White plays early on is what it comes down to.
I'll say this much. This is probably a really good sign for Duncan Robinson.
If they need some shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, hit that thumbs up, by the way. And thanks for all 500 of you still hanging with us. Laffy, have you heard of Sage Francis? I feel like I've heard of him. I don't know any of his music. You can send me some on Twitter at Laffy_D. Bubbles, you listen to Immortal Technique? Yeah, but not as much as I never like fell in love with that music. Or I never fell in love with Immortal Technique, but he's
14.
good.
Oh, apparently it's 16-1 per chat. I'm obviously miles behind.
Yeah. Derek. Okay. Tatum 5-2. It's funny because they're not doing any of this by way of the 3. Usually Boston's just ripping.
Did they bring Pritchard in for Brown because of foul trouble? Because I know Brown picked one up. White, oh my God, White, what was that? Great oop, obviously, to get to 16, but he looked like he didn't know how to dribble to start.
Brown has 2 fouls. Yeah.
Okay.
2 fouls. Jimmy Butler's 0 for 3 from the field. No real foul trouble there for Miami. Bam, quiet. He has 1 point, no peripherals. PJ Tucker, 1 rebound, nothing else. Max Strus, goose eggs across the board. Oh my God, man.
Yo, that should be a backcourt, but I'm 30 seconds behind you, so it doesn't matter now.
Yeah, well, it's 17-1. Miami is, guess what they are from the field?
Antoine thinks this is how Depot is going to get more minutes. I'm not so sure that's a true statement. Feels more like a Duncan Robinson game.
They're 0 for 10 from the field.
Maybe you put on a guy that's good at shooting. I don't know.
Man, a lot of people were hammering the under on this game. A lot of people were hammering the under on this game. 17 points with 5 minutes, 19 total points with 5 minutes left in the quarter.
What's the live line down to?
Looks pretty. Let's see. Let me check it. Bet MGM. Free $200. I can't stress it enough. Just use the link. It's free money. And you guys know this. Yeah, sure. It helps us, but it helps you too. I've 100% said this 1,000 times. I'll never promote something heavily if I think it is dog shit. I won't do it. Like I told Josh that the one time with the text is like, if we're going to spam, I'm not doing it, which we don't. And it's helped a lot of people because they've benefited from it and got discounts and stuff, but I'm not doing, you won't, it doesn't help. Wow, dude, what do you think the live spread is right now?
I don't know, 11, 12,
15.5.
Yeah. I mean, they were 7-point favorites or whatever, and you're already up 17.
I know, but it's still, I 100% get that, but it's still early in that. 15.5 points, man.
Oh my God, even Deadman missed a bunny. They're 0-13 from the field. Yo, they're live to miss the whole quarter. They're real live for that. I mean, I'm probably going to speak it into existence now, but they are like legitimately live to not make a bucket. That first team ever without a field goal made in the first 7 minutes of a playoff game.
What?
Yeah. And who the hell knows what happens after that? Oladipo, dude, he's so bad offensively. Holy shit.
Wait till you see the Al Horford rebound over the top of defenders. All right, there you go. I saw him
catch like a one-handed one and then dribble out on the break.
Horford rebounds well.
Pritch.
Total is the live total is 188.5.
Yo, Derek White, shoot that shit when you get it. I'll shoot the ball, you pussy.
Here we go. Now we're in it.
I mean, Derek White had a look, but he's scared to shoot. I'll pull the damn shoot the ball.
All right. I wish you weren't so far behind everybody.
Me too. Jordan, you turning that volcano on? Yeah, you are. I can see it rising like I'm talking about
another offensive foul.
Depot hit Oladipo. So Oladipo hit the 3. Incredible.
Yeah, I know.
The worst shooter on the floor hit it.
Dude's a walking bucket.
He's the worst shooter on the floor.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Deadman shoot it.
People talk about how bad like Tyler Hero's been shooting in the series, but Oladipo is not a good shooter.
Oladipo's shooting bad and isn't a good shooter. Tyler Hero's shooting bad and is a good shooter.
All right, though, for real though, what do you think Oladipo's 3-point percentage was the regular season with Miami this year?
26, 28, something like
that. So it was. Wait, why would they do that?
Go ahead.
Nah, basketball reference has it. So, okay. No, that doesn't make. That ain't right. Okay.
What do you want to know?
How many games does he play with Miami? Did he really only play 8 games in the regular season with them?
Yeah.
Wow. Why did I thought it was more. Anyway, 42%.
Okay. Yeah. Last year when he came back, it was 24.
Yeah, 24.
Yeah.
he's not a good 3-point shooter.
No, I mean, he's a 35% 3-point shooter for his career. And the most recent 2 years was 31, 32. So
G Joyner, really enjoy you guys staying. Would love to see a whole game. We are.
patient.
And we're going to do it to where we can all watch it without a delay. And we can all watch the same game at the same time on the same screen with us up there. And we'll even be able to bring some certain people in. Maybe we'll bring in Antoine Murphy, Josh, just for you.
I don't think that we can.
No.
I mean, I don't think we're able to hook up a cup and a string to the computer.
All right.
Let me look and see where Darko has Oladipo's 3-point shooting, and then we'll get the hell out of here. Current player skill projections.
Follow Josh at Josh Engleman too. Me at Lafay_D. Say what's up.
32.5.
That's not good.
No, it isn't. I mean, look, he's never been the same since he got hurt. He was really, really good, and now he's not good.
Yep.
And he's 30.
It is a shame to see that happen to players, but
Yeah, like I wish he were good. I mean, he was an all NBA guy before he got hurt. He's just not that guy anymore.
oh man, Burger King commercial on right now.
I love Burger King. Favorite fast food is Burger King.
Really?
I just
You're
never
trolling. You're trolling.
From a cheeseburger perspective, that's the one that I want.
He's not trolling, by the way. When we did the hot chip challenge, the Pocky 1-chip challenge, and Josh thought he was dying for 2 hours because he did it on an empty stomach and only drank water, which is like both things you're not supposed to do. He, correct me if I'm wrong, you went to Burger King, got a burger, a shake, and some fries.
Truth.
Yeah.
Truth.
Why?
By the
what's your
way,
favorite?
like yesterday or 2 days ago or something like that was the Pizza Bite anniversary.
Was it?
Yeah. We had people thinking I was going to eat like 60 of those things. What a comical.
Would you do 200?
I did 100.
100.
In
Okay.
like 12 minutes.
We got to bring. Oh, dude, we
set a line at like 70 and people were like way under. You guys have clearly never seen me be high at my house before.
We were supposed to do the steak challenge. You were going to do like 80 ounces of steak.
Yeah. I don't think it was 80, but
64, I think maybe.
I don't remember what the number was, but whatever it was, I know that I'll do it.
What do you guys think Josh could do as far as steak goes? I think you could probably put down.
I can do 64 ounces.
You think you? No, you can't, dude.
I know that I could eat 4 pounds of steak.
Meat, like, not like they measure it at the restaurant with the bone in. Pure meat, you can eat 64 ounces of.
Yeah, I can eat 4 pounds of food.
Okay. That'd be nuts if you ate 64 ounces of steak.
10 minutes.
How quick do you think? 10 minutes?
It either happens immediately or it doesn't happen at all. I'm not going to get better with time.
Okay.
When it's done, I'm done.
I would even let you cut the steak up first.
I mean, I don't think that's going to be the problem here.
What do you mean? That if you're talking about time, the cutting
as long as it's a good steak, it should be cooked correctly and it should be tender. It should be really easy to cut.
All right. Suit yourself.
Are you using a sauce or no sauce?
I'm dipping that bad boy in A1 on every bite.
Hell yeah. Dude, get the A1 peppercorn though.
Yeah, I'm in for whatever.
Oh, it's so good. It's so
In
good.
for
I have you and I are similar in that we have zero shame. When people try to shame food takes, it ain't gonna work on me. If it tastes good, it tastes good. That's all that matters. Would you? What? Why?
I don't know.
You know I'm right. If you like it, why does it matter what someone else thinks?
Duncan Robinson on the floor. I don't think it's going to go well, but
would you just pick the steak up and bite it? That might be the play. Just pick it up and eat it without cutting it.
No, not at all.
Oh, you'd really want to sit down and be proper with etiquette? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Napkin, bib, all the good stuff.
All right.
Telling you, man, I can put food away.
Manny C just said he'll pay for it. He said he'll seriously pay. I believe him too. He'll pay for it if you'll do it. Josh doesn't care about that, but it's a nice.
I'll pay for it. I don't care.
But it's a nice gesture.
I do appreciate that. Yeah, that's not the barrier here.
Yeah, do Wagyu, Emax said.
Yeah, well, then I'm not going to pay for it. Manny C can have it.
Yeah, and you're not using A1 on that. That's where I draw the line.
Oh, no, ketchup, man.
No, you wouldn't.
It's my president.
Yeah, you would not. No, you wouldn't. You would not.
No, that's my guy, man. 2024 Wagyu steaks and ketchup, baby.
You would not. All right, appreciate you guys. This is fun. Josh and I during the finals are going to do some real shows. We're ready to watch the games together. 26-7 right now. Just an absolute bludgeoning. Games can change, but look, I could look like I could put my foot in my mouth and be totally wrong, and Miami comes back and wins this, but I like Boston. I liked Boston. Did the betting video over the Odd Shopper channel. Check that out. Hang out every day of the week. Be doing some betting picks. It's fun. We enjoy it. I like Boston today, Josh. And again, they could still, Miami could win. Who knows? They have 6 points, 8 points with a minute left. But Boston's a good basketball team. There's no way. God, I keep saying like it's over. I feel like there's no way they lose both games at home going back to Miami.
No, not at all. I liked Boston coming into this game. I think Boston's the better team. No Marcus Smart was a bit of a problem, but doesn't seem to be yet.
No, not yet. We'll see though. Anyway, appreciate
Victor
you guys.
Oladipo is 6 of their 9 points.
Speaking of foot and mouth, Josh, that'll be you tomorrow.
Well, if Victor Oladipo is going to have 6 of their 9 points, I understand why they're down 17.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's working out for the people that are playing Victor Oladipo. It makes me feel correct about the way that I felt.
Yeah, but they're just going to be like, yeah, but you knew that Miami was only going to have.
Yeah, that's how I drew it up. Victor Oladipo was going to be a high scorer for the Miami Heat as they got their asses kicked, scored single-digit points in the first quarter.
They're pacing like 45 points for the game.
It's real shitty.
All right, we'll see you guys soon. We'll be doing some real games where we can really do some big stuff here shortly. So let's have some fun. Remember, use that link 10 to 200 on BetMGM. Shout out to Jordan Klein. Long night for him. We appreciate him. Peace.